Welcome back to the Content Swap Podcast. You're joined by Parker and
Aaliyah
and
Flannery
and Chelsea.
There we go. Awesome. So this time around we have some special guests. It's usually just Aaliyah and I swapping content. This week we decided to have. Well, actually, would you like to
I think it was
explain?
like a joint decision.
Yeah.
Slightly forced on you.
Yeah.
No, we wanted it.
We bullied you.
we consented. We said yes.
So, who are you?
So Chelsea and I run Bluebird and Company, and Aaliyah works with us.
Best bosses ever.
For self-care.
Thank you.
On the side of doing all her extraordinary things. And I don't know how we got started on this conversation. I know for me, my daughter and I were listening to it on car trips, and I'd find myself like trying to interact with you guys. Like, but don't forget, but wait. And so then we just started talking about it, and then it was like, let us on. So here we are.
Love that.
And what is Bluebird and Company?
Oh, yeah, that. So we run a small retail operation in Crozet, Virginia, where we all live. And it's clothing and books, and with some sidelines, which are mostly female makers. I don't know how
Other small female-owned businesses.
Yeah, like jewelry and things like that. And we like to joke that it's not your mother's bookshop because it has a really strong sense of community. And when we were starting it, I've told this story so many times, but people were like, I don't know if people ever said, ooh, clothes and books, that doesn't make any sense. But I always felt like, as a bookseller, I always felt like, it's clothes and books? Like, but it just works. I don't know how, it just works, and it's almost like, why isn't everybody doing this? So that's it in a nutshell.
And yeah, it feels like we unlocked some secret that everyone's supposed to know.
I know.
I knew all of that just from reading it on your website, so doesn't
Yeah,
feel like too much of a
and we
secret.
do other things. Right now we're sitting in our annex, which is technically our office, but we do author events down here, and we do other like candle making, cookie decorating, mostly taught by the women whose wares, for lack of a better word, that we're selling in the shop. Yeah, so Chelsea and I feel like we've been really fortunate that we have a platform to give to other women who are at different stages in their entrepreneurship journey. Some are just beginning, some are, branded and it's going great, and we just love to support them. But we have a platform that we can give to them and say, hey, we'll sell your stuff. Hey, you can teach a class in here and get your name out in the community. So that's been the big part of what we do.
Yeah.
Right on.
Nice. Love it.
I mean, it's been fantastic getting to know the both of you, and I'm very excited for what we're going to be talking about today.
Yeah.
Are you excited?
I'm super excited.
Yeah.
I couldn't wait.
Aaliyah was made for podcasting. I love it.
I'm just sitting here.
I'm excited to get to the meat of it. I'm scared about the summary part.
Oh, you've got it. You've got it.
It'll
There's
be
no
fine.
pressure. We can fill in details if needed.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're going first, so we'll set the bar
Yeah.
and wherever we're at. I mean,
There's
really
nowhere to go
don't
but
even
down.
like,
That's what you're
don't
telling
even worry about
So
it.
we can really screw this up.
Yeah.
It's okay. It's
Oh,
all right.
we'll get into the momentum with the first one, and then for the second one, it'll be like, we're stacking.
Well, so are you going to give an intro into why we picked what we picked?
Oh, yeah, sure. I mean, we could. There is a theme, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Book adaptations.
Yes.
Movie adaptations
Movies,
of books.
yes,
Yeah.
perfect.
So the reason why me, picked AJ Fikry is because it's written by Gabrielle Zevin. I think that's how you say her name.
I think so.
I would
And-
say Zevin.
Zevin?
Something like that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and she wrote Tomorrow, Tomorrow, and Tomorrow, which was a book that the three of us loved.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we did a
Yeah.
podcast
Yeah,
on it.
I assigned it to you.
around the end of the end of 2022.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And AJ Fikry is definitely different and almost more like a novella, I would say. Like, it's really short, but I thought it was charming and sweet.
Yeah. Yeah.
Someday you have to read it. Tomorrow, Tomorrow, and Tomorrow.
It doesn't
I need to
fall
read
into
it too.
my genre.
Yeah.
But thank you.
Wait, you haven't read Tomorrow?
No.
No.
my
When I
gosh.
say I strictly read
Thriller.
Thriller.
I am
Yeah.
do not stray from my genres that I like to read.
Gotcha.
Can we call it Tomorrow Cubed?
Yeah.
Or Tomorrow?
Tomorrow
Tomorrow.
times 3.
Yeah.
I know. Every time I like write down that we need it, I'm
I
like
know.
tomorrow times 3.
Yeah.
It's so long. Okay. Do
Well-
you want to take a give it the summary?
What we did first was, Storied Life of AJ Fikry. This movie came out in 2022. As you mentioned, it was done by Gabrielle Zevin.
Well, she's the author of the book.
She
did
is,
not direct it.
I don't know who directed
Sorry.
it.
I don't know either.
I don't know either.
Yeah,
Do you
I
have
don't
box
look it up.
office numbers by any chance? Actually,
I
better
actually
question.
do for ours, so, but yeah, keep going.
Did this movie come out in theaters or was it direct to video?
Streaming.
I think
Okay.
it was direct to streaming, because it was...
Yeah,
During the pandemic.
it might have been in the theaters like small batch.
like one of those
briefly.
weird, like,
Yeah.
post-pandemic only weekend.
Yeah,
launch
but I mean,
thing.
I
you
was
know?
like neurotically looking for it streaming.
Yeah, it's on.
Yeah, because I loved the book, and so I was and I love Lucy Hale, so I was excited to see the movie, and so I feel like there wasn't that much time between when it came out and when I actually
I don't
streamed
think
it.
there was.
Yeah, we watched it on Hulu.
Yeah.
I don't
So,
remember how I watched it. Might have been Prime Video.
okay.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Amazon rules the world, and everything's
I
on
know.
Prime Video.
Yes.
Literally.
Literally everything.
yeah.
Even if it was a Hulu
Except life
exclusive,
size.
you
Can't
could
find
watch
that.
it on Prime Video
This is true.
for $4.
Yeah.
And the other movie I
And
want you
99
guys
cents.
to watch, Circle of Friends. Can't get that on Amazon
I don't know
Prime.
what that is. Have you mentioned that before? I don't
The
remember
Maeve Binchy movie with Chris O'Donnell and Minnie Driver.
Okay, I know Minnie Driver. I don't know whoever you
You
just
don't
said.
know who it is, you talk.
I know Minnie Driver.
Like, I know Minnie Driver. I don't know anyone else.
Chris O'Donnell?
Wait, Chris O'Donnell, the guy that played Robin in Batman and Robin in
Yes,
1995?
okay.
yes,
We're
when I
bringing
was
it
in
reference
high
for the
school, I was
90s
like, if I
babies.
married Chris O'Donnell, I'd be Flannery O'Donnell. That was perfect.
That's funny. Well, next time.
Incidentally, from Winnetka.
Really?
Yes.
That's wild.
As is Bill Murray, who's in Fantastic Mr. Fox.
Yes, Bill Murray
So,
also
little-
resides in...
Wow.
So
He
little.
lives in Charleston now full time.
Who?
Oh,
Bill
wow.
Murray.
Oh, so little known. I moved here from the Chicago area from a town called Winnetka, which is northern suburbs of Chicago, right on Lake Michigan. It was the most beautiful place to live, and crazy. What's the word I'm looking for? Coincidence. Thank you. She was born in Chicago, and her mom. Oh, so the neighborhood that we lived in was the same neighborhood that Home Alone was filmed in.
Oh, wow.
So the pharmacy where he steals the toothbrush and then runs across the ice rink, that was our park that I took the kids to play.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
That's cool.
her mom, when Chelsea was itty bitty, maybe even before you were born, had a shop in the same neighborhood. And Chelsea went to she went to JK at the Catholic school where Theo went to JK.
Oh my gosh.
Isn't
I
that wild?
too have seen the Home Alone house.
But there are a lot of.
We have a Lego version of it.
Yeah, it's not really that special.
Yeah, it is.
Oh,
I take everybody to see it.
my
Oh my god, I take
Didn't
it.
they open an Airbnb
They
for the Home Alone
did,
house?
and it was when they had the Lego set come out. Because if you won the raffle or whatever to stay there, you got the Lego set for free.
I'm like the reason the sign says, stay off the property or whatever. Because
They're like,
I was like, who wants to go to see the Home Alone house?
that woman is back again.
I
The woman
love
who did the
that
Ferris
movie.
Bueller
That's
tour,
like-
tour. Now she's out in Winnetka.
Yeah.
That's
whole
on my
file
top
on you,
5
it's
movie
scary.
list. Home Alone.
I love
Anyway.
Home Alone.
Chicago PD is keyed into where you are and what you are doing.
Oh my gosh.
Are we straying too far off course?
Yeah.
No.
Whatever,
No,
you know.
it's totally
This
fine.
This is part of the fun of
Yeah.
doing a podcast. We're just having a conversation.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, the storied life of AJ Fikry. I'm going to really struggle here. So,
I can jump
there's-
in when I need
There's
to.
so many events that go down in this movie.
Yeah.
You can tell very much that it's a book and that it's a bit easier to digest as a story in book form. In movie form, it seems to move between things really quickly. You were saying a little bit about that as well.
Yeah, we'll talk about it later. I'll give
Okay,
my opinions
alright,
after
okay.
the summary.
So, gosh, summer. Yeah, we don't. What is this movie? It's just sitting in the background. Okay, so, gosh, there's this grumpy guy who owns a bookstore on an island called Alice Island, which is around Cape Cod. Is that correct?
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I was thinking maybe it was like Martha's Vineyard.
Okay.
Like
that makes
kinda-
sense.
So is
That's
Alice?
what I was
because
picturing in
the
my
one,
head.
yeah.
Yeah.
I don't want to give anything away, but the girl who comes over That's what
Yeah.
I
Okay.
imagine, based
Yeah.
on where she comes from.
Yeah.
Okay.
Gotcha.
So he owns this bookstore on a very small island that's extremely difficult to get to, and she recommends this book to him. That
Wait, she who?
Oh gosh, thank you, thank you. Wow.
Lucy.
Oh.
I know. You're trying to get on to me.
Lucy, yeah, no, Lucy Hale. That's the name of the actress.
You got all
right?
offended
She plays.
about it.
So all right, Lucy Hale plays a character named Amy. She is a book distributor.
She's a publishing sales rep.
Thank you.
So when
Not a
we
job
in
title I'm
the
familiar
in the
with.
book world, the
Yes.
way it works is when you have your sales reps at the various publishers and you get on phone calls with them seasonally and they tell you what's coming down the pike, what you're like, you definitely want 2 of these, you want 6 of these, whatever. But depending on your relationship with the different reps, like my girl Sage at Macmillan, you'll hear me talk about her all the time because she'll be like, you need to read this. And I'm like, great, I'll read it.
Oh,
What
okay.
credentials
So-
do I need to have that as a career?
I mean, I can.
There's a
Unclear. Can
paywall.
someone call in?
I'm
Let
like,
Aaliyah
I
know.
know.
Can that be my job?
I mean, they all work from home.
Oh my gosh, I need that. I want that job.
But then they travel a lot to then show
So
the books,
some of
right?
them do, some of them don't. I don't know pre-pandemic what it was like, but like we have one from Hachette who's coming the week of TJ Klune.
Right. We don't see them as often as I thought that we
No.
would.
Because they kind of don't need to. I mean, all the books are digitized now for you to see ahead of time. So we have like you can edit this out, but just for your information.
No,
No, I love
There's
this.
this portal called Edelweiss. And you can get on and you see all the catalogs of all the publishers, and your sales rep, like my Amy, will do markups. So she'll go through the catalog and she'll kind of like tag what she thinks you should pay attention to
I
for
see.
whatever reason. Like, I think this is going to be big, or this author's from Virginia, or whatever it is. And so you have your phone call and you go through like the markups. And then a lot of times, because I'm OCD and neurotic, I make them go through the whole catalog after we go through their markups.
She does do that.
But we can talk about it more in a minute, but like the conversation with a sales rep and a bookshop owner to recommend a book is not unusual.
Okay.
Gotcha.
Okay. So
It is and it isn't.
I see. Okay. So she goes to the island to recommend a book to AJ Fikry, who owns this bookstore.
Well, she was going to make a sales call.
Gotcha. Okay.
And while she's there, you need to read this book.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you.
Sorry.
Those are like the nuanced details that
I
I'm not
know.
picking up. I'm just like, girl goes to island, says read book. That's basically what
He
my
says no.
I mean, my first note here says curl.
Curl.
Girl, car, boat, island. That's
Oh my
that's just all it
gosh.
says. Bad green screen boat shots. That also says that as well.
Green screen boat shot.
They were bad.
They were
green
really
screen
bad.
boat shots.
They weren't great.
They reused the same shot of this lighthouse every time somebody was on
Yeah,
the ferry.
the whole movie.
Same shot. Bad
That's so
feathering
funny.
around the
It
character.
did have I don't want to say a low budget feel
Yeah,
to
it felt very like
but-
Hallmarky.
Well,
like,
you're not
kind
going to
of.
put a lot into the visual effects of a movie
Right.
like
Yeah.
this, because
That's
it's
fair.
got 3 visual
It
effects
felt
shots.
like
and
they
all
were
mean the
trying to
same
be
thing.
artsy with the shots of the outside of the bookstore.
Yeah, oh, yeah,
I
they
felt like they were
definitely-
trying to be a little bit Wes Anderson.
I was gonna say like
Yeah.
in the
About
symmetrical-
it.
Yeah,
It's
it's very
very
symmetric.
symmetrical.
Yeah.
Like it was
Yeah.
very like, it almost looks like when he films a movie, it's like
yeah.
it could be like a funky postcard basically.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So
That's fair.
she's recommending this book. It's a memoir of some guy. Somebody please help me out here on what that was about.
Leon something.
Leon
forget.
Friedman.
Leon Friedman. Yeah.
It's a memoir Shellman wrote.
Yeah.
Yeah.
80s, is that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
She talked about how the prose is really good and it made her cry, and she was really recommending it. And he basically says, I hate every genre of books ever made, so no. And you can tell he's like clearly a depressed character. He
And you can
is
tell-
going through a lot.
She's sort of like, how would you describe her character? Like she's
Go-getter
clearly,
or
I don't know if new in the job
Yeah.
is the right way to describe it. She's clearly enthusiastic about her job and like excited to talk about books. And this guy is like, nah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I wrote AJ Fikry is fickle about his taste in books, but yeah.
He's
anyway.
fickle about life,
Yes.
right?
Yes. The Fikry is not a name that I think I've ever heard before. I feel like that was just made up to kind of be like Yeah, he's fickle to kind of
Yeah.
like add to the character,
I didn't
the
think about
personality of the
I didn't
character.
either.
There you go.
Somebody Google
like,
the surname Fikry.
Just adding my own flavor of how my brain works to this conversation. So you could tell it's a movie that's based on a book that's about books for people that like books. I don't mean that in a bad way.
Let's put that on a shirt.
But it's very much got that feel. Like there is a deep appreciation for the art of writing a story, just layered throughout the movie. So anyway, I'm already doing a poor job of summarizing this. We're like 20 minutes into the
We've
summary.
only gone like,
I was trying to do
5
this
minutes
fast.
I think it's
Yeah.
fair to say at this point that like there's no connection, right? Like she's
Yeah.
like, you should read this book. He's like, no.
Yeah.
And she leaves the island.
Yeah.
And that's it. For
Yeah.
I forget how long.
Yeah.
I'm just afraid I'm going to like summarize it in this quick way, and then it's in your opinion as the people who assigned the movie that it's gonna be like, well, that's not really how it happened. So,
That's okay.
all right. Well, feel free to chime in wherever.
I am.
Yes.
I'm probably the reason why it's
I'm
going to
trying
be
to just
4
like get
hours.
through the summary.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, basically, he goes home that night. He gets extremely drunk because he's depressed. His wife recently passed away a few years back. He pulls out this little pamphlet-looking thing, and he stares at it, and he's like, ugh, this thing. And then he like passes out because he just drank way too much. He drinks like a whole bottle of wine. He wakes up in his own bed. He's a little confused as to what happened. He can't find the book. He starts freaking out. Apparently, it's an extremely rare book of poems by Edgar Allan Poe called
Tamerlane.
Tamerlane?
Tamerlane.
Is such a
Tamerlane?
thing?
$650,000 was what it was worth.
Yeah,
It
it was worth $650,000.
Do we need at this point to discuss facts?
You can if you
I
want.
mean,
Like
yeah.
how
If you wanna jump
Edgar
in.
Allan Poe has ties to UVA?
Yeah.
Oh, sure.
Oh, like our fun
Yeah.
facts.
Yeah, our fun facts. Hey, I don't know.
I mean, we could whenever.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
We're
just
having a
saying.
fluid conversation here.
He went to UVA for what, a semester?
I think so.
I think it was
you can
like
visit his room.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because he went to, I think he did most of his education at West Point, I think.
But he did maybe one semester here, but the room, so like at UVA, they have what's called the lawn, where I think it's not graduate students, it's upperclassmen.
So it could be faculty or students, but they have to have like accomplished great things in order to like have
Okay.
the honor of staying in one of those rooms.
Right. So it's like these dorm
Yeah.
rooms that, quite frankly, I wouldn't want that honor because in the winter you have to walk outside to the bathroom.
Yeah.
But these rooms like
And they're
open
real
up.
small.
Oh, yeah, she talks about that in
rooms.
Lita and the Swan.
Yes.
She
There's
does talk
another
about
book we have
that.
to read. But
I'm sorry.
are you bringing us back to early?
Well, I was going to, but I was also going to contribute something
Okay.
to this. But was just you said you went to West Point for most of his
I
education.
think so.
So how hard did they go for Edgar Allan Poe? Because UVA, if you went
Man,
for a
they're
semester,
taking
they
that
go
way-
really
Well,
hard.
yeah, because
Hard.
when you think how many rooms are on the lawn, so these rooms open up to the lawn, this beautiful, like, isn't commencement on the lawn, like it's this picturesque with the rotunda, and this one Edgar Allan Poe room is memorialized.
But it doesn't even face the lawn. It's on
No,
the
it faces
outside of
out.
it. Yeah.
But still, that's like, to me, that's valuable real estate, and they're just like, yep, no.
This is it.
Yeah.
This stays locked down.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, anyway, Edgar Allan Poe.
I feel like, well, last thing about it,
Yeah.
I feel like every city you go visit, it's got some kind of tie to Edgar
Yeah.
Allan Poe.
Yeah.
Like
Honestly.
in Charleston, there's a burger place called Poe's, and it talks all about like all on the
Yeah.
menu. It's all about his history tied to Gold Bug Island and Charleston, and you're like,
He was getting
okay.
around.
So yeah,
Live that long.
why him? Why is it always him?
I don't
Next
know.
podcast.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, we
Start
could talk about
a
that
spin-off
for 4
series
hours,
called
I'm
Why
sure.
We're like, why? Yeah. Why?
Why Poe?
You heard it here first. Don't steal that idea.
Oh my gosh.
That's funny.
All right, well, he wakes up. He can't find his book of poems. Super expensive. He goes to the police. David Arquette is the chief of police in this small town. He plays a character named
Dewey.
Ilya
Lambiase.
and I were all thinking,
I know.
Yeah,
The whole time. All my
Dewey,
notes.
Dewey,
Dewey.
Dewey,
did this.
Dewey.
Dewey did that.
yeah. David Arquette plays a character named Dewey in the Scream movies. For those that don't know.
fantastic set of movies.
Fantastic
it.
set of movies, yes. All fans here.
You've never seen
What?
that?
I've seen the first one.
Oh,
Okay, I have
this is
all
the
the
best one,
DVDs.
so-
We're having a Scream marathon.
yes, done.
Yep.
Sign me up.
Will do.
I'm going to get COVID that day.
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
Oh my gosh.
Incidentally, we have the DVD of Fantastic Mr. Fox. I almost brought it to be like, guys, this is what a DVD looks like.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, you should have brought it. That would have been cute.
Anyway,
So essentially, he's talking to the police chief about how this was going to set him. He was going to sell it. He was going to sell the store, and that he was just going to make sure that he was set for life from these funds. And so he, in thinking about that, starts to have a panic attack and wakes up at. Or I don't know if he wakes up at the hospital, but he ends up in the hospital. This is an example of one of those transitions that happens a lot in this movie, where it's like something, he passes out, but then we just go to the next
And
scene.
nothing is time stamped.
Yeah,
Yeah.
nothing.
what do you mean?
Like, we don't know the time. Like, so, like,
Like,
the
you
daughter
jump
keeps
years.
growing. Yeah, and you're like, what
Yeah.
time is it? Where are
Yeah.
we in the story? Yeah.
Yeah,
And
I
I'm
was
like,
confused.
she was a baby and now she's
Yeah.
5.
Yeah.
What's
Yeah,
happening?
I was like, what? That's a different actress. Could they not afford the original one? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, anyway, where was I?
The doctor tells him.
Yes, the doctor tells him that you had a panic attack, and then he talks about what his current lifestyle is, and he's depressed. His wife died.
He's drinking too much.
drinking too much.
He hasn't worked out.
He
and
hasn't
he used to love
exercised
running.
ever. Yeah. So
Didn't
the
they say
doctor
he was
says,
a runner in college? Am I making that up?
He says he's a
character?
long distance
Yeah.
runner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he gets told you need to start or he's recommended to exercise. He starts exercising a bit more, and then one day at the bookstore, somebody leaves a 2-year-old at the bookstore, and
Which
he's
is
like,
so random.
Yeah.
I was like,
2-year-old with
And she is-
0 stranger danger.
yeah,
With,
the,
with an enormous vocabulary
Yes.
for 2.
Yeah.
the most adorable 2-year-old I've ever seen
her
in my
little
entire life.
glasses.
Yeah.
I was like, ah.
And then my next note just says, and he ends up keeping her.
I'm trying to remember what his thought process was that got him to the point of keeping the baby.
He
Do
was
you
like
guys
afraid
He
remember?
was worried about foster care.
fostering.
He
Yeah.
was
Okay.
asking the social worker, like, how do these families get vetted? What happens? And she, like, didn't have any good answers. And he was
Yeah.
like, no.
Yeah, and the child's mother was in the foster care system, and her note that when she left the child said, I wanted to leave her with the owner of the bookstore.
Because if they read
Something
something
about-
like
something
if
about
they
people
read,
who read
yeah,
books. Yeah.
Yeah.
are more compassionate,
Yeah.
which I can attest to.
Right on.
Well, I'm just kidding.
Well,
We're all like, oh, yeah.
yeah, so I mean, yeah, his compassion comes out and he says, yeah, I wanna be her father. And so her name is Maya, and then we instantly transition to 14 months later, and she's already calling him daddy, and it's like, whoa, what? Because I thought, when I was watching it, I thought it was like the next day, and she's like, daddy, and I'm like, whoa.
But it feels like she aged 3 years and only 15, what was it, 15 months?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
she was like 2 years older, 3 years older.
And then all of a sudden she's, 5.
yeah.
happened?
I was like,
So
what?
they're living life together, and then she's sick one day. He reads the book that was recommended to him by Amy at the beginning of the movie.
Do you want to talk at all about the sister, Christina Hendricks' character?
Oh,
Scott
yeah.
Foley?
Oh.
That would be
Scott Foley.
that would be an important thing to talk about. I feel like if we don't talk about it now, I'm just gonna end up saying like, oh yeah, and this character's like been here the whole time. So
Yeah.
maybe we should talk about who that is.
So Christina Hendricks is his
Sister-in-law.
sister-in-law.
Yeah.
Yeah, his
So her
his
sister
wife's sister.
had passed away. Christina
Yes.
Hendricks of Mad Men fame.
I
Oh,
didn't know who she
And a
was.
personal favorite of
What?
mine. What?
Yeah.
You didn't watch
I
Mad
knew
Men?
who she was, but I didn't watch
She
Mad Men.
played like Don Draper's main
I don't know who Don
secretary.
Draper is.
I know who Don Draper is.
you
That's
watch
John
it?
Hamm's character.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yes.
okay.
It's about advertising. Of course I watched
It's
it.
so
I've never
good.
seen it. Yeah.
Okay, well, so...
Okay.
Catch up with us in
So
a
Christina-
few months
I
for
feel
that
like-
episode.
Christina
Keep a
Hendricks
list.
is like is a no one to you, essentially.
So it's really fascinating to watch her play a different role because I've only ever seen her play this like 1960s hard charging.
You don't watch Good Moms? What is that? What is the
No.
Netflix
Yeah,
show?
no, I
Oh my
don't.
god, her character on that is.
Well, so she plays like this 1960s hard but vulnerable woman who's in charge of all these admin in this misogynistic environment. So it's just always different when you see her play a different role. Anyway,
What did you want to say about who her character is in this?
what else do we need to say besides
she
good
she
point.
kind of wants she wants the best for AJ. She's like, even though she was married to she's his sister-in-law, she wants the best for him. She wants him to be happy. She wants him to get better. And she's married to, I forget her husband's name.
Like David
it's
or
Dan in the movie.
Dan,
And he
right.
plays
Dan
like, it'd be
Parrish.
curious, like, is he based on a famous writer? Because he kind of plays like an arrogant writer who, you know, sleeps with women when he's on his book
Right.
tour. But he's played by Scott Foley, who was on my favorite TV show ever, Felicity.
I've never heard of that.
Oh, Felicity. That's the one with
Carrie Russell.
Carrie Russell. Thank you. I always
Loved that
forget her name.
show. Also, he did not play an arrogant character on that show. He was like nice guy.
And in this movie, he's
He's
He's the
wicked
worst.
arrogant.
a really mean guy.
Yeah.
Just caught myself.
What did they
You're about
say?
to unload.
In Fantastic Mr. Fox, and they're like, cuss.
You're cussing at me, I'm cussing at you.
Start
That
doing
might be
that.
my favorite part of the movie.
What's his character's name in this? Daniel Parrish?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
That sounds like a writer name.
No, I have a friend named Daniel Parrish.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Hey, Daniel.
Is
My
he
last
an
name
arrogant-
used to be
is he an arrogant
Parrish.
writer?
Your
No,
last name?
no.
Yeah.
He's a good
That was my
rock
mom's
star.
maiden name, and my parents didn't get married till we were like, till I was like 6 or 7. And so my name was Leah Parrish, and then I got it changed to Leah Churchill. Once they got married.
Wow. So are you now Aaliyah Parrish Churchill?
No, I'm just Leah Churchill. But my sister, she didn't want to change her last name. So my sister's name's Ashley Parrish.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Learn something new every day.
Yeah. All right, where were we?
Maya's grown up a little bit.
Maya's grown up a little bit.
And
But, like,
he was crying
secretly
about
a
the
lot.
book that he really liked.
Oh yes, he really liked the book
So
that
he
was
ends up-
recommended to him.
yes.
He ends up reaching out to Amelia and says it was a great book, and then she sees him every 2 weeks. Is that correct? To bring books, or at least
Well, doesn't
she's
he-
about to come in 2 weeks.
Doesn't he
Yeah.
invite her to dinner, though?
Oh, I was gonna say.
Oh,
that,
got you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
and then
Okay.
he
Yeah.
takes the boat over there, right? Or do they have dinner,
They have dinner
on the island
on the
first?
island at
Yeah.
that Moby Dick place.
Well, then,
Yes.
Because I
no,
thought
then,
he came up with an excuse to go see her.
Well,
to go to like a museum or something.
So
I don't think he
After-
ever leaves the island in this movie.
Yeah, 'cause
she
he goes
tells
to
him he
her
has a
house.
fiance. You guys are
Yes,
missing the
yes,
big
yes,
part.
yes, yes, yes.
Yeah.
He has a
Yeah.
fiance, and he's like, "Oh, you snagged an American hero," and she was like, "Yeah," or
That's
something
right,
like
he's
that.
military.
Yeah, that all comes out in
And
that
then,
date that they went
then
on.
she, she's supposed to come see him and breaks her ankle, and then,
He asks
So
like,
then
"Oh,
he goes.
oh,
off
when are
the-
you coming? He like calls. Oh, yeah,
they have to do a video call
I'm setting you up
because
for
she,
your.
well, because she, broke her ankle. But what were you setting me up for?
He doesn't he? Oh no, that's a different phone call. When he calls about the book and pretends to leave a voicemail, and then that part comes after.
Oh, okay. Well, it was on that Skype call that they had where she was talking about her ankle that she said that the marriage was no longer happening.
Yes.
Or the engagement was no
Yeah, the
longer
engagement was
happening.
off.
Yeah.
Which was weird, because she was just like, oh, we were just different. I'm like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
They just didn't have anything in
That was
common
so,
is what
like,
she
what?
said.
She's
Yeah.
like, yeah, it happened to what? She's like, it happened over Christmas, and
Yeah.
you're like,
I
you
was
seem
like,
very casual about it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And I'm like, wait, when was
I have thoughts on her
Christmas?
character.
Because there's
when
no
are we now? There's no
timestamps in
timestamps.
this movie.
Yeah. Right. Well, they end up having dinner at her place, and the
Yeah,
sparks
he
are
goes off
flying.
island. Remember, he's
Yeah,
gonna
yeah,
take
yeah,
his
yeah.
daughter to a park or something. That
think
may
they're
or may
in
not.
Boston,
It may or may not.
technically.
Providence. Isn't she in Providence? She's in Rhode Island. I
Well, are
thought.
we going to talk about the Mia's mom?
Yeah, no, we're gonna get there.
Okay.
It's just
Because
in
that's
the
why I think I
presentation of the
know
movie.
geographically where we are.
Oh yeah, Maya's mom. They actually did find her body at the beach. Soon after we discovered that
This
Maya's.
is like all over the place.
I know.
She had a Harvard.
Yeah, she was a Harvard
And so that's why I'm
student.
like, oh, obviously they're
Right. I just
close
Well,
enough.
I'm not going to
somewhere.
harp on where Amy lives, but I had in my head she was in Providence.
Okay.
I feel like it was mentioned. Something
And
like that. was
but
mentioned.
no, Maya was at Harvard. Not
Her mom was
Maya's
at Harvard.
mom.
Maya's mom was at Harvard. And
But
then-
he goes off. Remember, he comes up with an excuse to take Maya to this. I don't know if
Okay.
it was like a park or a museum, and they weren't sure if it was going to
Was
be
this
open
something that
because
was
it was
in the
winter.
I don't think that was in the
Yeah,
movie.
I don't remember that.
And then he shows up at her house,
He does show up at our house.
And
That's what my
they-
note says. Like, my notes go straight from her wedding is off to then they have dinner at her place and
Oh,
sparks
maybe
are
I'm
flying.
confusing the book.
And then
And sparks are flying.
Yeah, and then you
But
know.
did they though? They kind of went right from.
I think it was. This movie moves very.
It's very
quickly.
abrupt. It's
Yeah.
like there's nothing there, and then all of a sudden they're like married.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Spoiler alert, but
I
yeah,
mean,
no,
yeah.
it goes well. But then
Yeah.
before they get married, she's like believing the connection is doomed to fail because of this 5-hour travel time that she has to take to see him,
Yeah.
which is pure silly talk, in my opinion. But
She's like, it's too inconvenient.
yeah.
I don't want to do this.
Yeah, which is not how it ends up going anyway.
Yeah.
So, you know,
I feel like there's got to be more there in the book.
probably.
That's why I feel like I had a hard time connecting with her character because I'm like maybe I'm just missing something in the book that's like
Yeah.
making her
And
better.
I'm wondering if I have such blurred.
We need a
Lines.
part 2 because you need to go back and reread the
No,
book.
but I mean, like I
can
feel like
shore
I
this
have
all
like
up.
a blur. I have blurred lines between what was in the book and what was in the movie. Maybe now.
Yeah.
I think
You know what I
maybe.
mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh.
I didn't read the book, so I can't help you.
It's,
Well,
it's a
any
very
moment-
fast read.
Any moment that happens, I think it's going to be interesting because
Yeah.
none of us
Yeah.
have read the book. So, keep it up.
Keep going, champ.
I'm not one of those readers, like I was telling you guys earlier, like my teens will be like, no. On page 250, this person did this, and that wasn't in the movie. Like I
my
don't
gosh,
have their same level of detail recall.
The only
Yeah.
movies I have that level of detail recall,
Dirty Dancing.
Harry Potter's.
Harry Potter. Yes.
For Sal, it's like the only, I can be like, that
Yeah.
wasn't in the book. Even now, it's like 15 years later, I'm like, that's not right.
I
never
want to
read
get
the
into a
books.
whole
I read
conversation
the
with you
first
about
one.
Prisoner of
Yeah.
Azkaban and what you think of that depiction.
You need to
but
get Theo
not right
on that.
now.
That could be on our other podcast,
Yeah.
our books to movie podcast,
Which we are doing coming fall of 2023.
Yeah.
Oh, well, now you put it out there and it's like
Put in a
public, so you
plug.
have to do it.
Yeah.
That was the plan.
All right.
I'll have COVID that episode. I'll send one of my children in my
Like,
absence.
Flannery's had COVID like 5 times in just 1 month.
Super irresponsible with the germs. She ever washed her hands?
Okay.
All right. Let's see. He says he's sorry he can't do more of that driving. More of that driving. Sorry. More of the driving, and says he loves her. She loves him too. And then I'm like, yeah, they can figure it out. And he decides he wants to do this book event with the book that they both really liked with Leon Friedman.
An author event, yeah.
Have the author come speak a little bit, and this author just seems like the worst. It turns out
He's
there's a reason
drunk.
for that. Yeah, he gets
He's this like old drunk man. He's obnoxious, and it completely shatters Amy's thought. Like, it shatters her because
Yeah.
he's so awful, and she like loved his writing and loved his memoir. And there was it a woman who was in the audience at the time
Yeah.
of the author event who seemed particularly
Interested,
interested
yeah.
in the event.
Yeah. Before I get into that, it reminded me of The Fault in Our Stars. Have you seen or read that?
Yes.
Where they meet the author that they loved, and then he turns out to be just a total
What
jerk.
do you always say to me
What?
about meeting your hero?
Oh yeah, you're never supposed to say never meet your heroes.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm particularly worried, not anymore, but I was particularly worried about
TJ Klune.
TJ Klune.
Yeah.
I was like, if he's an awful person, she'll never come back from this.
Oh,
Turns
yeah.
out it's been confirmed by several people that he's a
great.
delightful human.
Yeah,
I
can't
believe
wait.
it.
As expected.
Yeah,
I'm like, how can you write such beautiful stories like that and
know.
not be like fantastic, you know?
yeah.
I'm going to have
I mean,
to
I'm
ask
sure
you
you
to
could.
contextualize who that is.
Okay, so TJ Klune wrote this book called Under the Cerulean Sea. He's written a bunch of
House in
stuff.
the Cerulean Sea.
House in the Sorry.
I look at you like,
confusing it
who's in the cellar
I'm
under the
confusing it
whispering
with
door?
Under-
I'm
Under the
confusing it
Whispering
with
Door.
Under the Whispering Door. Sorry.
Hey,
House
TJ,
in the
that's your next
Cerulean-
book idea.
Yeah. House in the Cerulean Sea, which I still to this day don't know why I picked up. It's not ever something I'm normally drawn to, neither the cover nor the synopsis, because I tend towards realistic and historical fiction. And I fell in love with it. And I've made everyone except for Chelsea read it. And
It's not my genre.
I was like, last fall, I was fangirling his agent and was like, what's a girl gotta do? Right? Like, I've sold so many of these books. I can guarantee 60 people. We live in a small town, right? Like, what's the population of Crozet?
I have no idea.
No, that's a good
Like
question.
3,000,
5,
5,000?
No, we're closer to
10?
We're over 5, probably 7,500.
Maybe. So
Yeah.
small town, right? I'm like, I can guarantee 60 people. Somehow, miraculously, I don't know how, they gave us the first stop on his new book tour, and we have sold, I think we're at 209 tickets
Oh my god.
for this event.
Wow.
Which
We had
is
to
like,
open up 100 more.
yeah, we just opened up 100 more because I was like, no way we'll get to 100.
Oh, so I
No
can buy
way.
a ticket now.
Yes, you can.
You don't
You
have a
have
ticket?
a ticket.
I do?
Yeah, I bought you a ticket.
Sorry, TJ.
But
I'll be there.
yeah. Anyway, it's just
Hope
one
you're
of those
listening.
books that is sweet and heartwarming.
I think I bought you a ticket. Now I gotta
and
check.
Yeah,
I'll
please-
check when
please
I
check.
get
I
home.
would like to-
Sorry,
Yeah,
I'll check when I get home.
Well,
Yeah.
anyway, just
Anyway.
to bring it back in.
Yeah, sorry.
That's an example of the opposite of what could happen at this type of event, which is happening in the movie. So yeah, Leon Friedman, he not the best guy, and there's this woman who seems particularly interested. She gets into a conversation with Amy, also known as Amelia, and they, oh gosh,
how do they find out
well,
that?
Amy just picks up on it that this
Yeah.
woman is just extremely knowledgeable, asking her a lot of questions, and then at one point Amy just kind of says, "Yeah, it's kind of tough to quote your own book or something like that." Or
Like, remember everything you've written.
yeah, oh yeah, it's tough to
Yeah.
remember every single thing that you've ever written, and basically just saying like, "This is your book."
She figures it out.
Yeah.
And it turns out, did the publisher hire the guy?
Well, no,
the woman did.
Yeah,
woman
she.
did.
Because she tried to put it out and then it was unsuccessful.
Yes.
And so
It-
then she.
It was
book that she wrote.
unsuccessful as
Yeah.
a novel.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
she put it out as a fake memoir, which
Yes.
And she like hired that guy who was like a Santa.
yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's right. He
Yeah.
used to be Santa Claus.
Remember that book that Oprah? What was the book that Oprah did for her book club years ago that ended up being not a real memoir? The guy later came on the show and talked about it.
Oh,
my gosh.
the one where he was an addict.
I don't know anything about that.
Shoot, I can see the cover of the book.
Oh my gosh. What makes you like write fake memoir?
And
Like, why not just write
it was
fiction?
a great.
Yeah.
It was great.
Why
It
Why not
got
put it as fiction?
tons of praise.
I don't know. James Fry. A Million Little Pieces.
Yes.
Yeah, it was a big deal. But then I think he came back on Oprah and she confronted him and interviewed him and stuff. I don't know, that was a while ago, but that reminded me of it.
Yeah, I didn't know that was a thing.
Well, right on. I'm trying to get back on track
Okay,
with
I
my
know,
notes
sorry.
here. Basically, the woman is really happy to find out that the two of these characters first bonded over loving this book, and she's extremely happy to know that somebody thinks that she's a good writer.
Yeah.
She says, she didn't really know until today that she was a good writer.
Even though
Which was-
she's a liar.
Even though, yeah. Dang.
Tell us how you really feel about that.
I mean, let's call a spade a spade.
Yeah. Well, from there, this is going to be a quick transition, but AJ proposes to Amy. They get married.
We don't know how many years later.
Yeah, we don't know
totally.
how. We're at the wedding, and the woman who actually wrote the book that they both loved is speaking.
Which no one's listening to her.
Nobody's listening except for the two of them and
Yeah.
Ismay. Ismay?
Ismay.
Ismay.
Yeah.
And Ismay is, again, the
Sister-in-law.
AJ's sister-in-law. So she's listening to the author at the wedding, realizes that her husband fully sucks, and
Trash.
walks into the water at the beach. And Lambiasi, David Arquette's character, finds her, comforts her, you can kind of get the sense that he's picking up on there's something going on with her. So he
Sorry.
consoles her a little bit, and then she's, from there we instantly transition to her talking to her husband in the car, driving away from the wedding, and she tells him that she doesn't love him anymore, and that, you can just tell he's awful because he is just saying, I'm not a bad guy, I'm just complex, which is just, the number one
worst,
gross human being
gross,
thing. Yeah.
slimy, creepy thing to say.
But what got me is she's like, I don't love you anymore. He's like, we do this every week. He's like, at every wedding this happens. And I'm like, oh my
You always
gosh.
feel like this at
Like,
weddings.
that is
Yeah.
not good.
Also, how many weddings are you going to? I
Fair.
need context.
Fair.
So I mean, she's confronting him over all of this, like in the car, like they pulled over, and he's talking about how they're in a bad spot, and they end up getting hit, and they're fine, but then they end up getting hit again, and then they're not so fine, and the husband actually ends up dying in that car accident, which was kind of a surprise, and also edited really strangely with this like freeze frame on his face.
Oh my gosh.
Well, there was like, he just died and it was like life moved on. Like there was no, I don't know, there was no coming out of that. You know, it
Nobody
felt very
seemed
abrupt.
super upset
Because he's a
about
really bad
him
person.
passing
Well, he
away.
was.
Yeah.
All right, well, that's done. Don't
Yeah.
have that conversation at every wedding anymore.
Yeah. So from there, Maya is now in high school. So it's like 10 years at this point. Maya's now in high school. She's entering in a high school writing contest. And the story that she wrote is about her mother. She's in the top 3. This is when we learn all the details about, well, not all the details, but a lot of the blanks are filled in on her mom. And we learn that, actually, I don't think I wrote anything about what was going on with her mom. So somebody please help me out here.
Plan? I don't think I.
Her mom basically was trying to take care of Maya, didn't really have any money. Wait, right? That's what they did.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And then
she came out of foster care and was
Yeah.
like, I just want a better. They talk about like her wanting a better life for her daughter.
Yeah.
Oh, I totally forgot to say that Ismay, when she was confronting her husband, confronts about how Maya is his daughter because he was.
That's right.
Yeah.
The reason I'm on my phone is I'm trying to pull up a synopsis so I can remember
Yeah,
some
yeah.
of the like nitty gritty
Yeah.
details. But that's right.
Yeah.
He was always having affairs on his book tours, and he got this girl pregnant. She was a student at Harvard, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I can't remember if she kept the baby and kept going to school, or
Yeah.
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 I just remember her being on the campus and then taking the ferry over with the baby, clearly in a state of distress.
Yes.
But
And that's-
she and Ismay kind of alluded to the fact that she always knew
Yes.
Maya was Scott Foley's.
Because they get into it later when we figure out the whole thing about the Edgar Allan Poe poems of like what happened and like why Ismay knew and like what was going on there.
Yes.
Yeah. I didn't want to like spoil it for you because I know you're not there yet,
Yeah.
No, you're good.
but do you want me to talk about it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we're already
So
there.
yeah, so basically we find out that Maya had, or sorry, her mom, which is Marion, I think is the mom's name, Marion and Maya.
Like Mary for short.
Yeah, had come to Ismay's house and was like, "This is your husband's daughter," and she just needed a little bit of money, and then like basically Ismay, they don't have money because her husband keeps like spending all the money, and so she stole AJ's Edgar Allan Poe poems to give to Marion so that she could sell it, make money, and like basically buy her out and be like, you know, just like keep it to yourself.
Right.
But none of the bookstores or like the rare bookstores would like take it. And so Marion ended up bringing it back to Ismay, but Maya had like colored on it.
Right.
And then what happens after that?
Maya ended up coloring on it, but then
It just
Ismay
sat.
just
and that's-
sat. It just
yeah.
sat
Sat
in
at
the
the
closet.
Yeah.
And as viewers, we find out that it's in the closet because Lambiasi goes out with Ismay, and she's got a lot to say about what her favorite type of book is. It's extremely specific, actually. I was wondering if that like fit a specific book that was ever written, but anyway. And then they just slept together because every time there's a scene.
no one else on the island to sleep
I know.
with.
Every time there was a
Clearly
scene.
loves her from the jump.
Yeah,
I just want
yeah,
everyone to
yeah.
know if you're not
Yeah.
picking up on that.
Also, yeah. Also, we should say that at some point in the like kind of flashbacks, revelations, they show AJ passed out and
Yeah.
Ismay like cleaning up
Yeah, and
all
that's when she took the book.
because I think did he fall and like the wine splashed and she's like cleaning up his house and right?
Yeah, I think he's like
he
passed
was
out at the
just passed
table.
out.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she just put him to sleep, and then she was like, "Hey, that's worth a lot of money, so
Yeah.
let me go
Yeah.
pay off my husband's
But I
mistress."
don't remember like thinking poorly of her for that decision. Which now, as you guys are replaying it back, I'm like
I feel like her
Well, that
character.
was-
I feel like her character's kind of meh.
morally right.
Yeah,
Really?
no, her character is kind of meh, but at the same time, Lambiase, goes out with her and they sleep together because, every time there's a date in this movie, they end up sleeping together. It's true.
They get to business and
AJ goes on this like
Based on
terrible
the
date with this
timelines.
woman that loves sports memoirs, and then
Oh my
it
God,
instantly
I
cuts to
forgot
them
about
like
that.
after they slept together,
I
and
forgot
it was
that.
like a bad date. And
Yeah.
afterwards, they were like, "I don't want to go out again." So anyway, I had to point it
that
out.
lunch. She's like, it's just people trying to make you think they're smarter than you, and I remember being like, well, what is happening right now?
Yeah. Cut to the bedroom.
Yeah.
You
And
know?
then he
He
apologizes.
apologizes about the sports memoir.
She's like, that's just who you are. It's okay.
What?
Tell me what happened.
Anyway, Lambiase finds the book, and that's when Ismay tells the whole story of everything that we just recounted. So that's how he finds out that he has the book. But then one day, AJ goes for a run. He passes out in the cold, and then instantly switch to he's in the hospital. He's getting an MRI, and we don't know what it is that he has. But in that scene, this is an example of the writing in the movie, and how it just kind of like how it is
Choppy.
presented. Yeah, how it is very choppy. Like they don't say what it is. All he has to do is say, "And how do you spell that?" Because like if you can't spell it, it's bad. Like there's a
Right.
lot of the movie doesn't just tell you things.
Yeah.
It does actually I would say a good job of getting like not treating you like you're dumb. Like it doesn't need to
Right.
spell it out for you. That was something I did like.
Oh my god. That's funny.
Anyway, he confronts Esme about the book because AJ has cancer. Yeah, it's cancer. And AJ's family could use the money. She explains
For his treatment.
the whole. Yes, for his treatment.
We had a
It
whole
was- yeah, we
debate
had a
about
debate
what that
about
money
that.
was for.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's for the treatment, and maybe if there's extra, it can support the family. That's kind of how I took it.
Yeah.
So he has the surgery, and he's still alive, but it's not great. Maya is doing a lot of writing, and she's just kicking butt at it. And then she's wearing a Princeton hoodie, so I kind of got the vibe that maybe she was going to go to Princeton, or actually,
Did he
maybe
go to
not.
Princeton?
He went to Princeton. Oh, that's right. Okay.
Yeah.
He went to Princeton. The movie's honestly like really sad at this point.
It's so sad.
Because she's writing and then she's reading to him, and he just looks sickly, and then he dies. And then Amy, Amy's there. She's married to him. Sorry. I'm not doing a great job of this. And then she says like, hey, maybe I'm going to take a different job so that I don't have to travel so much, and we
Right.
get to spend time together. But they don't know what's going to happen to the store. So then Lambiase and Ismay say, hey, why don't we buy the bookstore and run things? And all is well. And then the next generation of
Sales rep.
comes to offer a book to Lambiase, who's now running the bookstore. And then we roll the credits. Okay, somebody else please
Survived.
talk.
I liked how they tied up the end because they showed the sales rep, new in the career and eager and excited, and kind of took you back to when Amy first visited AJ.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it bookends the movie.
It does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
Nice.
Did everyone like the movie?
Okay, we had different opinions. After the movie, he was like, well, maybe we should talk to each other about what we thought. And I was like, and he was like, oh, I liked it. I don't know. I wasn't sold on it.
Yeah, so as much as I just like to poke fun at little small things when I'm talking about the summaries of the movies, but I actually really, really liked it. I didn't expect to like it really much, having looked at the poster of the movie, but having watched it, it really, it plucked at my heartstrings quite a bit.
It does. It's not like a technically good film.
Yeah.
but it's like I thought it was like a really good Lifetime movie. Like
Yeah.
it scratched the itch.
My
Not
thing
for me.
was
I would be interested
Yeah.
in reading the book. Like that's how
I
I.
think I would like the
feel-
book a lot
Yeah.
better.
And
Yeah.
it could be that because I enjoyed the book, anything the movie did.
You're like
it would-
forcing it with the movie.
yeah.
Well, no, I think like I just have an affection for the characters and I like
Yeah.
the author.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. I need to read the book because I was not connecting with any of the characters. The only people I
No.
cared about were AJ and Maya. And I was like, if this were a movie of just them and like their
Right.
relationship, I would have loved it.
Right.
But like Lucy Hale's character, I was like, she's just there in the
And
background.
I
I love
am middle of the road on her anyway.
Yeah, same.
But
Same.
What's my favorite Lucy Hale movie?
I don't even know who that is.
what? Pretty Little Liars?
Yeah.
Nope.
She plays
No,
in Amelia.
The Hating Game.
I've never seen
Nope.
it.
What?
Yeah.
So she
Trying to question your taste in movies. Like really, truly.
she's in the Hating Game with the guy from Top Gun,
Which guy?
Glenn Powell.
Glenn Powell.
Who's that?
He plays
Hangman.
Yeah. Anyway,
Like,
the Hating
Hangman?
Game
The cocky
is
one.
It's his
another.
call sign.
The Hating Game is a rom-com. I think it's like 2018 by Sally Thorne, I believe. Just like enemies to lovers.
A tale as old as time.
It is, but you know,
Sometimes I like it. Sometimes
need
I
that
like enemies to
sometimes.
lovers.
So why did you pick this movie?
I picked it. Chelsea didn't pick it because
We're having a very hard time finding
Like
overlapping
common ground.
movies.
well, you can pick the next one.
Oh, I will.
I didn't necessarily pick it because I thought it was the best movie ever. I just loved the bookstore aspect and like that, you know, obviously. And then because it was Gabrielle Zevin. So I thought, and we talked about doing a book to movie adaptation, so I thought it would be a fun one to discuss.
I mean, I thought it was perfect. My fourth note here actually does say Flannery definitely assigned this. So
I know.
This one
But-
is definitely not in
I
my
think-
wheelhouse.
I think that, like anytime, you know, I always buy, people love books that are about bookstores and libraries, right? Like anytime bookstore or bookshop or libraries in the title, we buy it and people buy it.
This is true.
Yeah.
But now it really makes me want to read her, Gabrielle Zevin's other book. I forget the name of it off the top of my head. I forget. Because this one is so different from Tomorrow.
It is.
So different.
Yeah. I wonder, would you, if they made that into a movie, do you think it'd be good? Or do you think it would make a good, like,
Tomorrow?
yeah.
I worry about that. They would also. I think they would need a pretty decent.
They need, I think,
They need
animation team to like
Oh,
show
for the
because
video
it's a
game.
fictional
Because it's
video.
game.
game.
Yeah.
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 I say it could. That movie Tetris just came out,
Oh, yeah.
which
I
by
haven't
the way
watched
is
it yet.
really good.
I
is it?
think,
I've been meaning to
Really,
watch it.
really good.
I think it would be,
Pretty dry, but it's
I was in Duck this week. And
In
we were-
where?
In Duck, North Carolina.
Oh.
Duck.
Okay, you told me it wasn't X-rated. I didn't say a bad word.
No, I was just like, what's duck?
But oh, in the Outer Banks, and
like
we,
a section of the Outer
yeah,
Banks.
Got you.
and we went to a bookstore there, and we were talking to the owner, and it was like, oh, have you read the, you know, the usual, and tomorrow, and she's like, I couldn't get into it. I'm not a gamer, and I was like, I told her what I tell everybody. I'm like, you don't have to love gaming, just give it a chance. But the reason I bring that up is because I don't know with a movie, maybe it won't matter. Like maybe that doesn't have to be tempered for a movie,
Yeah.
but maybe it does. I don't know. I mean, I am not a gamer, and I loved Free Guy.
Oh,
Like
I
I
did
thought
not.
that
I
was.
did not like Free
Oh my
Guy.
god, I love Free Guy, but I'm also a huge Ryan Reynolds
It was
fan.
really
Oh,
obnoxious.
yeah.
Yeah.
But I didn't feel like you had to
Yeah.
be a gamer
I
to.
think I got 10 minutes into it.
Oh my gosh, I've
Because
watched
all
it like
these roles
10
are like the
times.
same now. It's all that weird,
Yeah.
sarcastic humor.
He's just
It's
playing
all
Deadpool.
it's
Yeah, it's all
Deadpool and
Deadpool,
different
yeah.
I haven't watched Deadpool.
plots.
But I didn't think you had to be.
If you like Free Guy, I
Watch
think
Free
you love
Guy.
Deadpool.
Love Deadpool.
Yeah.
It's like G-rated though, isn't Deadpool like
Deadpool
X?
It's R-rated,
rated
yeah.
R, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
But I didn't.
Yeah.
My point being, I didn't think you had to be a gamer
to
Yeah.
enjoy
to
it.
appreciate it. So I don't know. That would be my only thing with a movie, how they could make it so that you didn't it didn't turn people away.
Yeah, I
Because
think.
I thought the book did a good job at it.
Yeah. I mean, there was an element of, in the book, they were making references to different video games, and for me as a gamer, that was really satisfying
Right.
in a book, but doing that in a movie, if you were to make the same types of references, it would require rights with all of those
Right.
companies, which
Yeah.
would be a nightmare.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Because I could picture the one scene, while I'm not a gamer, I was a huge Super Mario Brothers fanatic on the original Nintendo.
Oh.
And I could picture the scene she was describing, like the buttons, how I put it, like it was like
Yeah.
muscle memory, how you push the buttons to get Mario to jump.
Yeah, that would be I don't think Nintendo would allow that like,
Yeah.
at all.
But they wouldn't have to. They could just have like a nondescript.
Right.
game. Like, or they're not even mention the
then
names.
would
They're
it
just
not?
like playing a
In
system.
the
But then
movie
would you
Tetris, they have the
feel it?
Nintendo factory and the big Nintendo logo on and Sega and what's the
Oh.
other one they talk about?
Oh, what's the wagon one? Don't
Oregon
they,
Trail.
Oregon Trail.
Don't they talk about that tomorrow?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They'd probably
Ostensibly.
happily give up the rights to Oregon Trail. They could use some royalties at this point.
Yeah.
I don't think
Yeah,
they're playing
yeah,
that at
yeah.
recess anymore in school.
Nintendo is very serious about like any use of their IP that's unauthorized. They have a team. They refer to them as the ninjas, where their legal team's really intense.
That's what but so Tetris is about like selling the arcade rights versus the PC rights, and then that is when Nintendo is like top secret working on the Game Boy, and it
Yeah.
gets into this whole thing with like the Soviet Union and who actually has the rights. And so if you liked game, I mean, even I really liked it, and I don't.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
just an interesting story.
No, I've been planning to watch that. Just haven't.
really
we don't have
good.
Apple TV Plus.
I'll let you.
Oh.
I'll let you.
Apple
didn't
TV
know that.
Plus.
Apple is that what it's called?
You
I
just
don't know.
got the TV, I
Plus.
think.
Yeah.
We've got an Apple TV. I think
Sorry,
it's called
Apple.
TV.
Isn't
Yeah.
it? I don't know.
Don't come for me and cancel my Apple ID.
Well, regardless, Storied Life of AJ Fikry. Is there anything else that we'd like to say?
Do we rate these?
You
rate
can.
Oh,
Come
go
on.
ahead.
Yeah, go for it.
Let's
2 out of 10.
go. Ooh,
Dang.
wow.
Dang. I feel like I'd give it like a 4.
So not that much better than me.
Out of 10,
Yeah.
I'd give it like a 7.
I don't know, but I'm not the kind of person that goes into every movie like Garland, my husband, will only watch movies with a certain Rotten Tomatoes. Like if it's
Yeah,
not
I can be the
above,
same way.
Kind of with Garner.
and I'm not, because like I
Used
don't
to be
know.
like that.
There are
I
things
did-
that
I
I
did
can
used to be like
okay,
that
like to use a
before the
really
podcast.
poor example, but also apropos. The Bodyguard with Whitney Houston and Kevin Costner was terribly reviewed. Loved that movie.
Yeah.
Loved.
The Life Size, Tyra Banks. Love that movie.
Okay, I don't
It's
know.
also
It was
horror.
a banger.
I love good bad movies.
Yeah,
but
that's
I hate
what I mean.
bad movies.
I thought this was like a Friday night in my bed with my puppies. Good movie.
Well,
You know what I mean?
It's
Yeah.
a bad movie, right? Because like I love Gremlins.
Oh,
It's in my
Gremlins is
top
fantastic.
Gremlins
But I
is-
wouldn't consider that a bad movie.
Nobody says
I
Gremlins
think some
is
people.
a bad
I
movie.
think some people would disagree. Like I think there's
Yeah,
a
that's a
subset of
great
people out there
movie.
who hate that type of like 80s.
It is
cheesy.
a classic.
I know. That's why it's in my top 5.
When the gremlin is in the food processor and when the gremlin gets microwaved, it is a classic.
Oh,
Yeah.
Oof.
Well, when I say like bad movies, I mean like where the general consensus is like this is a bad movie.
Yeah.
I'm with you.
And I
So,
just
like, it's an
enjoy how bad
overall.
it is. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the so bad
Give me
it's
an
good
example.
usually would be like The Room.
Yeah, something like The Room, Birdemic.
Birdemic,
like,
Troll
watched Troll
2.
2, yeah.
Okay, I didn't read The Room
trying to think of-
or watch the movie.
No,
No.
not that, not the Brie
Room
Larson.
with Brie Larson.
We're talking
That's an
about
Oscar-nominated flick. We're talking
yeah,
about
Tommy
The
Wiz-
Room,
Wiseau or
Tommy
whatever.
Wiseau, yeah, famously bad
Never
movie.
heard of any
But
of these
it's-
movies.
yeah,
They
yeah.
must actually really be
Oh,
bad.
they're
These are
like
movies that are
homemade
like
movies.
very poorly produced, but
Yeah.
they're
Yeah.
so entertaining because of how poorly produced
I'm
they
with you.
are.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not
it's
talking
a
about
whole
people's specific
subgenre.
taste in what is bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's best when they're not trying to be bad.
Right.
Which is in
Yeah.
the case of The Room, he was trying
So
so hard to
hard.
make it like Oscar worthy. And it's so bad.
Yeah.
That's like what adds to the story.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Well, yeah.
anything else on AJ Fikry?
No.
All right. I will pass the torch over to the two of
Hit
you.
it. We can do it together, but you start and I'll fill in.
Okay, so I know you guys all say that The Fantastic Mr. Fox was a simple movie. I found there to be a lot of layers as I was watching it.
That is I am shocked.
So, well, not to like start to get into it, but I think there's some complicated relationships. Like the son, like the son and the nephew are like its own plot, and Mr. Fox and Felicity, his wife. I mean, Fantastic Mr. Foxy.
His name is Foxy T. Fox.
Foxy is a complicated guy.
I didn't know that.
Foxy
He
T.
makes
Fox.
he makes really poor decisions that puts his family in peril.
Yeah.
And so it's not, I don't think it was that simple. Like, I almost feel like we could have a conversation like, why did he do that? And why did he put so much stock in his nephew and not his son? And then how about the scene where Felicity is like, I love you, but I never should have married you. And he just like keeps going. He just keeps going, rallying the troops. And you're like, Foxy.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah.
so I think remind me the beginning starts off that he is kind of like, he's a fox, right? Like he's kind of living a little bit of a sneaky life.
Yeah, his career,
he's
he
a
steals
thief.
chickens.
Yeah, he steals birds.
And then he marries Felicity, I guess, and
I think they're already married at the beginning.
Are
They're already married at the beginning. They're at a doctor's appointment.
Yeah.
And it doesn't tell us what the doctor's appointment was for. And he's waiting for her by the tree. And she comes up and he goes, how are you? And she's like, oh, just a 24-hour bug.
right,
And they
right,
talk about
right,
which way
right,
they
right.
should go home. And he wants to take the dangerous route and she wants to take the safe route. And they end up taking the dangerous route because he wants to steal some birds. And then he's like joking around about how he can never get caught. They get caught and she looks at him and says, I'm pregnant.
And
Then
so
you have
it's
to get a
like-
new job.
Yeah. So then he becomes a newspaper man.
You flash forward 2 human years, 12 fox years.
Which I
don't
Googled.
remember
I was like, is that
level of
legit?
detail. Oh God, I can't. And I just watched it. So he becomes a newspaper writer, and he doesn't know if anybody is reading his articles, and he's living in a hole in the ground, and he's poor, and it's kind of like a Fox's version of a midlife crisis, would you say?
Yes.
Probably feeling the pull of his old life. See, a little bit more complicated than. Also, this
Deep
is
feelings there.
this is stop action.
Stop motion.
Stop
Stop
motion,
motion, sorry.
yeah.
Stop motion,
motion.
which
It had a $40 million budget. And it was very low grossing. It actually only grossed $46.5 million at the box office.
and we should say too, it's based on a Roald Dahl book.
Yeah.
We're in the 1970s.
Yeah.
And directed by Wes Anderson.
Yeah.
Yes.
The greatest of all time.
Which
Um,
I read that it was going to be a Tim Burton film, but then
That- I
I,
see
that
don't
right
know what
here.
happened. Yeah.
No.
Do you
Yeah.
guys ever think it's funny? Like I was thinking about this while I was watching it, that in this movie the couple were played by George Clooney and Meryl Streep. But if it had been a live action movie, would George Clooney and Meryl Streep ever
Yeah.
have been paired?
No,
like
probably not.
I
Well,
was
George
thinking
Clooney
that.
is gonna be cast with somebody young because
Yeah.
that's George Clooney.
Right.
He's extremely handsome.
And the guy doesn't age. Yeah.
George
So
Clooney.
anyway,
I've got separate thoughts on that. That's for another podcast.
So like
When was
George
the last time you
Clooney.
saw George Clooney in a movie? Actually,
when was the last Ocean's movie?
Oh, there's been
Ocean's
movies after
8,
that.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Hang on.
Yeah.
He's been in something since then.
Like, wasn't there a movie about like him and his family?
The
Yep, and they
Descendants.
tried. Nope, they tried it. They go, and Julia Roberts is his ex-wife.
Oh, I
and
haven't
that
watched
him.
it yet.
That's like it's
Yeah,
last
they go
year.
to the daughter's movie.
and they're trying to
I
basically
mean,
talk
wait.
the daughter
Yeah,
out of
I didn't
it.
watch
Yes.
it.
Yes,
I
yes,
didn't
yes,
watch
yes.
it. Oh,
How?
it didn't look like it was any good to me.
Not something I would watch.
Yeah.
It looked good to me. But
Although I love Julia Roberts.
I do
so
too.
I
Pretty Woman, top 5 movie.
I mean, I love Pretty Woman. I can take or leave. Not my favorite actress.
George Clooney is only 61.
Wow.
wow.
Ticket to Paradise,
Yes.
and then The Midnight Sky.
I didn't watch that either.
That was in 2020. Oh, Yeah.
So, but going back to the Fantastic Mr. Fox, Foxy is having a midlife crisis and wants to buy a home and invest in a home for him and his family. And maybe, I don't know, maybe he thinks that's going to make him happy. I don't know. So it's kind of, I thought it was clever how like he goes looking for a home with the real estate agent. And I forget what kind of a tree it is, a pine maybe. And he's like, well, what are oaks going for these days? And he's like, not in your budget. I thought that was super cute. So they buy a home, they settle down, they show the squirrels moving them in.
Yeah,
and the
but
wall's yellow, and they have
the
like
lawyer tries to talk him out of it.
yes,
Because he says this is like a super dangerous area because of the 3 farms right here. They're always trying to kill
Bean, bunts, and
bean bunts and
Or it's
Oh.
something bunts and bean.
yeah. Oh,
oh,
shoot.
quick, somebody Google
yeah.
it. But they show the fox's tree, and then in the distance they show these 3 farms. Clearly have a very domineering presence.
Yeah. I liked how they did that. It felt very like watching chicken run.
Oh,
Thinking
and
about that, yeah.
also we should note that when he was looking at the house, the handyman who was working under the sink, what's his name?
Oh, yeah, the like possum that his
Yeah.
eyes always
Oh,
like
his eyes like always get those.
Just going swirly.
Yeah, those,
It's
like-
Can't find
he's like
it.
not there.
Every time that happens, he's like, "Give me a signal that you're okay," and he puts his hand up. But then at some point later in the movie, the same thing happens to Mr. Fox, and they're like, "Are you okay?" And he puts his hand up. He does the signal too.
Also,
That's
what
a
is
nice
the
little
fox's
touch.
sound? He has like a
Oh, the
Oh,
like
he
clicking
does a
thing.
weird-
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a 2-click.
Yeah.
yeah. So anyway, this possum is working at the house. Seems to me that the fox is having the itch to steal again and uses the possum. Chelsea's gonna figure out his name. Hit the possum.
Oh, the possum. I'm looking.
And use the possum kind of isn't the sharpest tool in the box. Is that fair to say? So I got the impression the fox was like, "Well, I'll use this guy."
It tells
to
us
be
the characters'
my
names, but not what animal they are. So I'm like, what was the possum's name?
Lie.
I thought it started with like a F,
L?
did it?
But he's like, all right, we're going to go steal chickens from one of the farms. So one farm has chickens, one has cider alcohol, and what was the third one?
Ooh.
Turkeys. I think turkeys and
Really?
Turkeys?
yeah, it's another bird.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
I think
So they
Yeah,
go.
yeah.
it's another
You're right.
type of bird.
So they're
Yeah.
like, okay, the fox is like, here's what we're going to do. There's beagles guarding it, right? And so he's like, beagles love blueberries, which I wanted to know if that's actually a real fact.
no, dogs are not supposed to eat blueberries. I don't think.
Okay, so was
Yeah,
that like
no.
tongue in cheek? So he cuts the blueberries in half, puts sleeping powder in it, and then super glues them back together. And then I love like they get over there and he had like a gun or
Like
something
a little
that would like
launcher.
all the blueberries. So they steal how many? There weren't that many chickens, like 2, and they come back and all it fast forwards to is Felicity opening up the pantry and there's a beautiful
And she's like,
chicken
"What?"
that's been skinned and plucked and all. And she's like, where did this come from? It has a Beans Farm on it, tag on it, right? So she's maybe suspicious, but also maybe
He
not.
comes up with a story of how he got on his way home.
The Foxy is very sly, but he's also can talk his way out of anything, right? And she loves him. Like Felicity loves him.
Yeah.
So she kind of, even though she's smart, I got the impression that she will believe whatever because she wants to, because she loves him. Also, she's a wonderful landscape artist, which I'd love to talk about at some point what the point of that was,
Yeah, I don't know.
of her being a
She
landscape
I
was,
didn't
she's
put-
really
I
like
didn't-
lightning bolts. Like I feel like they made an
Tornadoes.
emphasis of
Tornadoes.
that.
Oh, see, I thought it was her mood.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Was she ever happy? Because I only remember. No, seriously.
Yeah,
I only
yeah.
He
remember.
makes the comment, and he was like, "Oh, drawing those thunderstorms," or at it again with the thunderstorms, implying that she took a break from
Okay.
painting that scenery. So I just thought it was like inner turmoil. She was like starting to get that he was
Yeah.
starting to realize he was up to no good.
makes
Oh, okay.
sense.
And also, we should say in all of this, they have a son, Ash,
Yep.
and their nephew. What's his name?
Chris Christopherson.
Oh, how did I
Christopherson.
forget?
Wait, is his name Chris?
No,
Christoph-
it's
Christopherson.
Christopherson.
Yeah.
Well,
There's-
that's what they call him. Okay, so I looked it up in the thing. His full name is supposed to be Chris Christopherson, which is like the actor, the name of the actor.
Yeah,
Yes,
there's an
yeah.
actor.
Yeah.
No, he's a yacht rock singer.
Oh.
Chris Christopherson. I
Oh,
mean, I
there-
think
I
he
thought it was an actor.
acted,
There's an
but
actor named
wasn't
Chris
he-
Christopherson
he was a
who
singer,
in
wasn't
all
he?
the Blade
I don't know. I
movies.
thought it
He's
was,
still
yeah,
alive.
it was the Blade movies. Yeah, named after the guy there.
Yeah.
oh,
Yeah.
maybe yeah.
I mean, maybe they didn't call him
Oh,
Chris
his name
Christopherson.
is name is Chris. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because he's played by Eric Chase Anderson.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, Christopherson comes to live with them, and for whatever reason, Foxy's son, which I thought this was interesting too. Again, lots of layers. They always refer to him as being different.
Yeah.
And he refers to himself as being different. And he's short, and he all he wants is to be an athlete. And then Christopherson comes in, and he's tall, and he knows karate, and the girl who doesn't say anything, she's just like, nah, nah, nah. Remember that?
Are you talking about the like young girl who like
Yeah,
likes
his
him?
girlfriend.
Oh yeah.
Who becomes Christopherson's girlfriend, and Ash is
The
like,
K sign. He's like, what's the K for?
Ash is like, you know,
She's like, we're going steady.
yeah. But Ash is like, what's this guy got that I don't? And even his dad is like, you know, doesn't pay
Adores
any
him.
attention,
Yeah.
adores
He's like,
Christopherson.
he's a natural.
Yeah.
He's a natural. That's what he always says.
Because there's a part when they're talking about the game.
Whack-ball?
Whack-ball.
Whack-ball. I
Whack
love
that,
that. Whack
Whack
that.
bat, where he's
Yeah.
like, oh, you know, the coach says, this is definitely,
Yeah.
you know, Foxy's son. He's like, it's on my mom's side.
Yeah. It's like,
And I
there's no
think was
blood
the
relation.
coach was Owen Wilson, right?
It was.
Yeah.
I love
Yeah.
Owen Wilson. Well, so anyway, they so the next night they go out and they get the turkeys. They go to the second farm and they bring home like a ton of turkeys. And so Felicity wakes up the next morning and the pantry is full of turkeys. And then the next night they go to the cider farm.
That's Mr. Bean. I think that's
Yeah,
is
yeah.
it?
Bean
is the cider.
And
Yeah.
the little black rat.
Yes, played by
Being
Willem
security.
Dafoe.
Yeah.
I love Willem Dafoe. He had like this tiny little black
Love.
rat is the security guy.
He's got this like red and white striped shirt.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he's always like snapping, right?
Yeah.
Like when he walks.
So they walk in and the camera's behind him and he's like, and he puts his like little cigarette out.
Yeah.
That's great.
So what happens when they get to the cider place? And
The
be
first
and
They
being
time-
almost
security?
get caught, right?
They
Gets
almost
in-
get caught.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But the first time they get away fine.
Yeah.
yeah.
It's the first time they get away when they unleash the hounds on the guys and they're shooting at them.
Yes. They like
The bad guy. What's the bad guy's name that's always smoking a cigarette?
Bean.
the rat or the
Is that
Yeah.
Mr. Bean?
I think it's Bean. Yeah.
Bean.
I feel like
So
he
he's
gets
the
the
owner.
most
The one super obsessed.
airtime. Yeah, because
Yeah.
like later, that's who kidnaps,
Yes.
yeah, catches.
So basically, at this
Christopherson.
point, Foxy is pissed off these three farms.
Yeah. Well, yeah, they get away. You're right. They get away, and that scene you're thinking of is all three of the farmers with like shotguns
And, like, all
behind
the
the fence, and you
henchmen,
can see all the people in the farms behind them.
Yeah. So basically, Foxy has screwed up. He's unleashed all this unrest. His family's now in harm. And the farmers, if I remember correctly, to get back at him, blow up the tree. Their
They
house.
like dig out the.
They dig it out,
They start
yeah.
digging.
But then they start digging it
they
out.
dig
but
into the
then-
side of the hill. I think they blow it up at one point, and then it's like all of the critters have to start like
Yeah.
digging until eventually they end up living in the sewer.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
not just Foxy and his family, but,
But like all of them.
all of
Yeah.
them.
Yeah, so it affects their whole community.
Right.
And so they end up living in the sewer at this point. I'm trying to
They
remember
do. They do get there eventually. But
It
they
takes
get
They're-
a
yeah.
considerable amount of time.
they get
in the-
flooded
yeah.
out by a bunch of cider.
Yes.
Before
Oh
they're
yeah, I forgot about that.
But
part.
throughout it all, Foxy is like the leader of the pack.
Yes.
Yes.
Even though he's a questionable character.
Yes.
He's like, I have an idea.
I feel like we could run that adjacent to some political things, but
I know. But
Ah.
I know.
Yeah.
And the loyal wife. Because Felicity loves him, but she sees all his flaws,
Right.
which I just thought was really interesting.
we're not going to talk about the comment. I can't remember if it was the Badger who makes the comment about her about basically being
The town tart.
fast and loose.
The tart.
Yeah.
Yeah, he
I
calls
think
her
it was
the
the
tart.
rat that called her the town.
Oh
tart.
yeah, it was the rat.
And the
Yeah.
super was like, "Dang, the town tart."
yeah.
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 Dang.
All right, so where were we? They get flooded out.
Flooded
So
out, cider,
basically,
then
they
they're
pissed
down
off
in
the farmers, and the farmers are on the attack. And now they're stuck in the sewers because they dug their way to the sewers, and they're living in the sewers, but there's nothing for them to eat in the sewers because they're not out in the wilderness. One of the themes I thought was interesting about the movie was we're just wild animals, which I feel like we could unpack a little bit. But that's like one of the common themes. Like, really, Felicity keeps saying to him, like, honey, we're just wild animals. Like, we need to be roaming free and eating, you know.
Yeah.
And here they are living in a sewer. Do you remember the one scene?
I mean, I think the thing there is it's greed.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
But we can talk about it.
Yeah. I was like, why don't we just say it's greed?
But I thought it was interesting too that there's the whole subplot with the son and the nephew running at the same time. That was like throughout all of it. They're like having their own conflict.
And no one is managing that conflict, and
No.
theoretically they're teenagers.
And we should say that I think it was when Foxy decides to go on the offensive to like rein it back in and get control of the situation again. Ash, the son, comes out. Oh, the other funny thing is they're always in, what do they call their bandit caps?
Oh yeah.
Is that what they called them?
Yeah.
They call them bandit caps. Yeah.
Bandit caps, and who puts on the tube sock? Here, just put
Ash.
on this modified tube sock. So there again, Ash, who's like treated like the, runt son is like, here, put on this modified tube sock. So he's got on the tube sock, and everybody else has on the black bandit caps.
Well, I mean, he takes Christopherson and doesn't take Ash
Yeah.
Right.
on the runs.
So so on this one where I think it's like the first time that happens, he's like going to take back, he's going to go on the offensive, and he's like, Ash is like, I'm coming, and Foxy and the possum are like, what are you doing here? No, you got to go home. And Ash is like, no, I'm going to stay. And they finally like tell him to go home, and Ash is upset, and he goes home, and Foxy's like, do you think he's going to tell anybody? Do you think we're in the clear? And then Christopherson comes up, and he's like, great, here's a bandit cap. And it was so sad. Like, not only they weren't going to let Ash join, but they were like, do you think he's going to tell? Do you think, like, he showed nothing, no positive things about his son.
Right.
Like, he just had nothing,
Yeah.
which I thought was so sad.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Have we mentioned how I think it was when they went to Bean's cidery, they're getting shot at and he gets his tail shot off?
Yes.
Oh, how could I forget that?
How could we
part?
forget that part? So he gets his tail shot off, and there's this whole scene. Is it like a lizard? Will it grow back? And they're like, no, it's never going to grow back. And they show Felicity like sewing up this bloody X on his butt. And you're like, oh man. Well, then it turns out, which guy? Not Bean.
Yeah,
One of
wasn't
the
it Bean who made it a tie?
Yeah.
Is it
Yeah.
Bean?
Yeah.
So Bean makes it into a necktie.
Yeah.
And one of the subplots I want to say is while Foxy and his crew are trying to like take back control, Ash and Christopherson are like, at this point, I think Ash and Christopherson kind of start to bond a little bit.
This is what starts to bring them
together. They're like, we're going to get my dad's tail back.
In that attempt to do that, they end up getting caught by Bean's wife. And then Christopherson ends up getting left behind on accident.
and he's
That's
up
right.
in the attic.
When they're eating the ginger maple apple that out cookies.
That's right.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yes.
That's the wife makes these cookies that smell so good that like no one can turn
It
them
was
down.
also a funny detail in the movie how they act like little humans, but then when they eat, they're like, that leaves a total mess.
Yeah.
I love
that
that.
and the cuss are my favorite.
Yeah.
And the badger. Are you cussing at me? I'm cussing at you.
Yeah, so Christopherson becomes a hostage.
Yes.
And Foxy is like, I think this is the point where Felicity is like, I love you, but I never should have married you. Foxy's like, I'm going to go,
Make this right, essentially.
I'm going to go hand myself over and give myself, and they'll give Christopherson back, and I'll die, but my community will be saved. Right?
Yeah.
And so then remind me what happens next, somebody.
They
Hatch a plan?
they make
They make their plan.
And essentially, the plan is
Don't they like dig up into one of the
they did
houses?
so they make a tunnel system.
Yeah.
They have like the tunnel system, and the first plan is they make the tunnel and it works, and then they just basically make a whole, I mean, not to go into super amount of detail about it, but they basically make a tunnel system to get to everywhere then, and then end up like robbing the grocery store that all the
Oh,
farmers
that's right.
own.
Yeah.
So it's like they hit the farms, and then they're like, he's like, I'm gonna keep going, and then they get the grocery store, and then they end up like thriving in the sewer, and then Foxy is like, Oh,
Wait, what about the scene where the bunny family is watching TV and the baby bunny's like, I'm hungry, and the mom's like, here, have some water. But it like shows them all in the sewers with nothing to eat. Do you remember that scene?
yes.
Don't.
So then,
Yes.
but then like they start stealing, and then Foxy's like, we need to spread the word that we have this like thriving underground community. I feel like I'm missing something in there.
I think so too, but I can't remember what.
There's something in between the farms and the like. There's a
fell asleep.
reason.
Well,
he's
they do need to go get Christopherson back.
oh
Yeah, how did
yeah.
he get I'm trying to remember. How did
Oh wait, but we missed when
he
they killed
does
the
get his-
rat.
Yes.
Oh
Well,
yeah, the
yeah.
rat
Does
gets
that not-
electrocuted.
Yeah.
But does that
happened
not
before.
happen when they?
I think that
are
happens
going
when they go
get
to
Christopherson?
rescue
Yeah.
Christopherson, and
Yeah.
then like they throw the rat off, and he goes into it's like a generator, and he gets electrocuted.
Yeah.
One part.
And they also get the tail back.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they do get the tail back, but
Because he wears a clip
it's
on his
all
butt.
it's all marled. Like remember it gets
Yeah.
all cut up and marled. One scene I wasn't sure what was going on. I must have missed a detail. Was when the rat was dying, and Foxy like says,
gave him some
"Here,
wine.
yeah, here's
Or-
the wine."
Yeah,
but
it's
why
water.
did he do that? And why did that like?
It was just out of respect.
Yeah, I think the rat was like, I just want to go with like one more drink or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I read this fact that they were actually going to cut that scene out because they thought he was drinking his own blood. Like the
That's what it looked like congealed and thick. That's what I thought
Yeah.
it was at
supposed
first.
to be a kid movie, hence the
Yeah.
cussing.
Yeah.
Right.
That's like I read
Yeah.
that's the only
That makes
reason
sense.
they did that.
Yeah.
I just thought it was like muddy water.
Yeah. I mean, it was supposed to
I
be
thought it was
water.
gonna
to,
go
like,
out
get
first.
past
Go
it,
hydrated.
Yeah, I thought it was blood at first.
Yeah.
And what did Foxy say to him? Something like, if you weren't dying, would you have shared this information with me? And he said no.
Oh, when he tells them that Christopherson is up in the attic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then how do they save Christopherson?
I
Ash
don't
ends
remember
up,
this part.
Ash ends
Ash
up
comes
finding
to the
him.
rescue?
Yeah, he's Christopherson is instructing him on how to do like this karate chop to knock the lock off of the apple
With the
crate
whack
that he's
bat.
locked in.
With the
Yeah.
whack bat.
Was it? It wasn't with the whack bat. It was just like he was trying to get a run up and do a chop.
I thought he like did
And
the
then he-
whole run and then like then he had the whack
Oh,
bat.
he does end up having a moment.
And then he uses the whack bat to lop off the doorknob.
That does happen later, but for the crate, he ends up failing and just like knocks into it, and it falls off and it breaks, and
This
that's
might
how
have been the part where
Christopherson
you
gets
was
out.
you was calling me.
Oh,
I
wait,
said
we
that.
couldn't find this
You
stuff.
were like, "Where are we? Where are you?" I'm at the
Where
annex.
are you?
Yeah.
She's like, I'm still
Oh, like, I'm
watching
still
the
watching.
movie.
Sorry. Anyway, I digress.
Yeah, but I think that scene too is also them being like, okay, Ash and Christopherson are good to go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They have resolved their issues.
Why do you think like what do you think they meant when they kept saying, "But I'm different. You're different. He's different" about Ash?
I mean, he kind of was. He was trying so hard to be more
Something-
than what he is.
Yeah.
He's not accepting of his own abilities. He wants to be more. He wears a cape, right?
Yeah.
And that in and of itself is representative of like, he wants to be super, and nobody recognizes him.
Oh
as
yeah, it's the
super.
cape tucked into the shorts. The scene where
Yes.
the dad's like, okay.
Well, and that's also I thought and maybe I'm not as smart as you guys. I don't know, but up until the point where Foxy has his like come to Jesus with Felicity, I wasn't quite sure what his motivation was. And then they have that whole conversation where he's like, I just want to be seen as this fantastic fox. Like, I'm bigger than what I actually am. And that's sort of how Ash
He
was.
has like a complex
Yeah.
about being a fox, and that goes back to her. We're just wild animals.
Yeah.
And
Which I thought was like a really, I did feel like the movie needed that to give it like that depth. Because otherwise I was like, all right, wait, why are we stealing the chickens? Like, I could care less.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. An interesting fact I found was, like, so the whole movie is all, like, orange, like, warm
Yeah.
tone.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, but Christopherson wears blue, and he, like, stands out.
What do you think that's about?
So what the fact said was that it's like, oh, because he's, like, an outsider, because he's, like, coming in from this other
But why
place.
blue?
But I don't know. Well, I mean, I
Well,
think to
blue-
stand out against the warm tones, he's, like, wearing the
Yeah.
cooler tone.
Yeah, blue is like exact opposite to orange.
Right,
Yeah.
on the color wheel.
And so
Yeah.
I wonder if that has something to do with, like, him and Ash, too, of, like, having that, like, difference in, like, the contrast. I don't know.
Also-
and, like, what you're saying.
all Wes Anderson movies have, I think, some kind of color story.
Yeah.
That if you really dug into it, I'm almost certain that he's got a color theory that goes into each of his movies because no two movie shares the same palette.
Yeah.
Well, and also like complementary colors are opposite on the color wheel.
Yes.
So they're opposites, but
Speaks deeper to that
they
symmetry.
go.
that
They
goes
go
in these
together.
movies.
Yeah, they go together.
I mean, just,
kinda
you can watch his
wow.
movie with no sound on and be like, that was great. That was a great movie.
I know. It's
Oh,
just
yeah.
really nice visually.
I'm also a Wes
Yeah.
Anderson fangirl. So.
I was watching it with George, my 8-year-old, and he's like, I mean, Mom, even if you don't like the story, the music.
it
Which I-
does have
Yeah.
great.
It does
does
have
have
a great
I'm a
soundtrack.
sucker
It
for
does.
a movie with like a fantastic soundtrack.
You should share your, because I told you about how he does a
Oh,
playlist
yes.
of all the things that we watch. You should
It's
share it
not
with her.
just all the things that we watch. It's
Well, like
also the games
games
that
and
I
stuff.
play.
Yeah.
I could give you separate.
me the modified
I could
version.
give you the content swap playlist.
Give me the content.
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah, because otherwise you're gonna get like Metroid, and you don't even know what that
I
is.
have no idea what that is. How could you tell?
I will say this reminded me of probably my most favorite animated movie ever, and I've watched a lot because I've been raising young children for 17 years, 18 years. But it kind of reminded me of Over the Hedge. Did you guys ever watch Over the Hedge?
That's a good one.
Which is my
Bruce
favorite
Willis.
animated movie, but kind of like that quirky band of characters and the flawed leader and
Yeah,
like
the quirky band character is definitely a theme throughout children's
Yeah.
movie. Like Sing, even Sing
Yeah.
I
has
love
like
singing.
yeah.
It's
But
so
like I
cute.
liked, but this had this
Zootopia.
sort of like
Yeah.
rising up together to beat the the HOA, the farmers.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Kind of like took me back to that, even though it's a completely
Is Over the
different.
Hedge the one with the gnomes?
No. No, it's with
What is that one?
Bruce Willis.
Is that Sherlock
and
Gnomes?
Steve
That's
Carell.
a
Looks like I would
thing.
watch
Steve
that.
Carell plays the
Yeah.
hamster, and
Yeah.
I know Over the
Allison.
Hedge, but there's another movie that's similar in that same like
I don't remember.
universe,
Yeah.
and it's got gnomes in it.
Yeah,
Maybe.
you can,
Someone is going to listen to this and be screaming
Yeah.
what the gnome movie is.
Yeah.
Okay, I have a question for you all. What is your favorite Roald Dahl adaptation to a movie?
Oh,
Ooh, James and the Giant Peach.
I
I
haven't
mean,
seen that one.
I'm just such a
What?
sucker.
I know.
I'm such
I
a
know.
sucker for Matilda.
Oh.
I love that actress. What's her name?
Oh,
With her little lisp.
yeah.
Yeah.
What's her name?
I don't
It's
know
not
that.
Mara
Yeah.
Wilson? Mara Wilson?
No,
That
that
sounds
is right.
right.
Mara
Oh, yeah.
Wilson,
Yeah.
yeah, because it's Mrs. Doubtfire too.
Yeah.
Ugh.
I love Mrs.
I
Doubtfire.
love that movie. I'm
Yeah.
just a sucker.
I'm gonna have to go with Willy Wonka.
Willy
honestly.
Wonka or
But which-
Charlie and the Chocolate Factory?
Yeah.
Oh, well, Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory.
I heard that Charlie and the Chocolate Factory is more like it's more
It's more
closely
accurate to
related
the
to,
book,
yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're not my jam.
Man,
Yeah.
no James and the Giant Peach, huh? From anyone?
James and the Giant Peach is great, but it also like scarred me as a kid.
I mean, it's
so
terrifying.
I haven't seen it since, so I don't
That's
know.
so funny.
It's horrifying as a child. We're like,
Yeah.
You think it's gonna be one thing, and then
It's
it's
a
like it's just never getting better.
it just stays pretty.
Didn't they make the BFG? I did not watch that
I
one.
didn't
I
watch
saw
it
that
either,
one,
which I feel like
but
I
my
was
kids
really
love that
excited
book.
for it, and I just never.
I remember watching it a long time ago and I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
But I don't really remember how it went.
I just didn't read a lot of Roald Dahl growing
I didn't
up.
either.
I didn't either. I never read a Roald Dahl book.
What?
I know.
You didn't either?
Yeah.
My kids did.
We had I had the full run.
Yeah.
No,
They have
my
the box
kids
set at Costco.
Yeah, they do. That's where we got it. Don't tell anybody.
Did you read a,
You heard
read
it
a
here
book
first.
called Half Magic?
That sounds right.
I'm looking up his list.
Have y'all seen
I
the
did
new
a book
Witches?
report on that in third
No.
grade, but it
Yes.
didn't actually.
It's actually kind of scary.
How could I
didn't
forget
read
about
it.
that one? That might
Yeah.
be better than James and the Giant.
I like
second
honestly I
James
like
and the Giant
Fantastic
Peach.
Fox. Fantastic Mr. Fox the best. In my opinion.
For Wes Anderson movies or
No,
sorry,
Roald
sorry,
Dahl
Roald
adaptations. But yeah, but Witches
I
is
didn't-
very
I didn't-
interesting.
Fantastic
So are
Mr.
we going to
Fox.
rate it?
Go ahead,
Yeah.
yeah.
This was one of those movies that seems to me critically it's well done. But I'm not sure I would pick it up to watch it again. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. I think I would give it like a 9 out of 10. It feels like a good fall movie. Like
Yeah.
when autumn hits, just like a nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I really enjoy it.
If I was reviewing it for my own Instagram account, it'd probably end up with a 5 out of 5.
Oh, 5 out of 5.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
it's. I do
Okay.
think it's incredibly well made.
Yeah.
There's so many little references.
Yeah.
So many. It's dense, and it's only 87 minutes, I think.
Yeah.
So yeah, for me,
Which
it's
is
got.
why you didn't panic when I was like at 4:30. I haven't watched it
Right,
yet.
right. So it's just got all the makings of
Yeah.
a good time.
Yeah.
You know, it's what you want out of a movie experience, especially when it's gonna
Is it?
it's gonna be a treat to like the intellectual crowd.
I think that's what it is. Why I wouldn't watch it again. Like, is it a repeater for you? Because like I could watch Over the Hedge.
I've watched it several times.
I've watched Over the Hedge like 50 million times.
Yeah.
I would watch Over the Hedge again, like if we were just kind of joking around, like, hey, let's watch
Yeah.
Over
I
the
don't
Hedge.
think I'd ever watched
But
Over the
Fantastic,
I think I've watched it once or twice.
Yeah, I was like, I wouldn't watch
Fantastic
it.
Mr. Fox, I would probably
Yeah.
like if I was in a conversation with somebody that hadn't seen it, I'd be really
I'm
excited
like,
to
let's
recommend
go
it to
watch
them.
this.
Yeah.
But I absolutely love stop motion because I just like so much time goes into it. And
I mean,
it's so
years.
amazing.
It takes
Right.
years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so like I love every Tim Burton thing that he's done. That's
Oh,
been
it's like
stop
Night
motion, I
Before
love.
Christmas is in
Yeah.
my top 10
Yeah.
easily.
Yeah.
I could
Oh,
watch that
Yeah.
every single day, 2 times a day.
Have you seen Kubo and the Two Strings?
I haven't.
Parts of it.
It won
It's-
Oscars, didn't it?
I'm not sure
So
it did.
let me
Oh.
tell you about living far away from your family when you have little kids and you have a DVD player in your car. I have heard all these movies over and over, like Song of the Sea. Oh, you know what's one we should do? Ponyo. Have you
Oh, that's
watched
a great
love
movie.
Ponyo.
Yeah.
I love
Um,
Studio
Love it.
Ghibli.
Oh, it's so good.
I don't know if it's your thing.
Yeah, I don't
Oh,
think
but
you're
at the what's
about?
nice about Ponyo is it's the most mainstream Studio Ghibli.
You think so? More than Spirited Away?
I definitely don't.
I'm
agree.
not a
I was like, everyone loves Spirited Away.
Spirited Away is by far the most.
That or My Neighbor
So-
Totoro.
Yeah, My Neighbor Totoro.
Yeah.
Are you all speaking a different language? I don't understand what's
Studio
happening.
Ghibli-
Spirited Away,
They're all on HBO
Kiki's
Max, you
Delivery
can watch them
Service,
all.
We went through
Princess
a phase
Mononoke,
in the pandemic
Howl's
where we
Moving Castle. Sorry.
What,
Yeah.
what are these about?
And then Ponyo.
So they're all,
It's
a
a
lot of them are about like
Japanese-
nature and like
It's a
how humans
Japanese
interact with
film
nature. Yeah.
Okay, you were correct. Not me.
And so, it's called Studio Ghibli, and they all are like, how would you describe them? They
They all have these like deeper meaning. Usually,
Yeah,
I feel
there's
like it's
always very
yeah.
heavy themes.
Yeah, a lot. Some of them are set during like war times. Some of them
Ponyo
are-
is about this little kid who finds this what he thinks is a fish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the fish is really like part of the ocean, and the fish's kind of parent is the ocean, and so the parent is, once the boy finds the fish and he puts it in his bucket and he takes it home, the ocean's angry. Like it's
Your face.
but it's yeah.
They're really beautiful. They're like visually very
Yeah.
beautiful.
Garland gets so irritated me because I'm like, Ponyo, Ponyo.
Oh yeah, it's
At the
great.
sea,
Yeah.
da-da-da. He hates that song.
Oh no.
But Tina Fey plays the mom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like I've missed an entire. I don't understand. When did these
Yeah.
come out? What are
Most of
They're
these-
like in the 90s.
Most of these
Yeah.
movies have been coming
But
out
Ponyo
over
is
the entire.
newer. So I think
Yeah.
maybe the reason I think Ponyo is more mainstream is because for some reason I picked it up when the kids
Yeah.
were little.
Ponyo was one of the ones that was released after they started dubbing everything. So
yeah,
I think it was like Princess Mononoke and Spirited Away were the first two that were released in America, and then they dubbed over everything. So like My Neighbor Totoro came out in 1989 originally, but if you watch the American version, which is what a lot of people grew up with, it's like Dakota Fanning does the voice.
Well,
Yeah.
and you would recognize Totoro because like my kids even have a onesie and it's gray.
Well, like the thing that I keep my almonds in,
Yeah.
that's a Studio Ghibli movie. It's
That's
Kiki's
Kiki's
Delivery Service.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like Kristen
My-
Dunst too. Is
my
the voice.
I better get busy.
I'm not into it, but my kids are like super Studio Ghibli nerds, and so is Sam. Shout out to Sam and Ellie. Sam, the
Who's Sam?
barista at Mud House,
Oh.
and
didn't know that.
and Rose. And so, like when things started opening back up again after the pandemic let up, they would all come over and they'd all have like a big Studio Ghibli
Oh my gosh.
viewing. So if you
Yeah.
ever want to watch a Studio Ghibli movie, my kids are very passionate about
They
it.
do a
Princess-
marathon at Regal, at the Regal Cinema.
Oh yeah, they are doing
They
that.
do it like throughout the summer.
Is that
You
a
guys will
Fathom Events
go, and
thing?
I'll go eat food somewhere.
I will say on the record that Princess Mononoke is my favorite movie.
All right.
No one asked. I'm just kidding.
Ever like number one out of everything?
I'm gonna tell
Number
Leo.
one, my number one favorite movie. I love that movie.
I will tell Theo.
That-
He would love to get into a long debate about it.
About
Really?
Princess Mononoke.
About-
So long.
About Studio Ghibli.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And the
I haven't-
movies. He has strong
I read a
opinions.
book
haven't seen
about
a lot of the recent
Miyazaki,
ones.
who's like the
Oh,
creator
yeah.
of all
So
of it. It was
Miyazaki
good.
was he the animator?
No, he was the director.
The director.
Yeah.
Or the okay, I should know this, but
Joe
I don't.
Hisaishi does all the music.
Like we often have a copy of Kiki's Delivery Service and Howl's Moving Castle. Did they come after the movie? Are they?
So yeah, Howl's Moving Castle came out in like 2004. Kiki's was.
But I mean the
one of the
books.
original. There's books.
Yeah, because we often have the
I think
books.
the books came
They
out
probably
after
came out
the
after.
movie.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
They prioritized the making of the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting. Like Miyazaki's life and like how he ended up getting into it is so interesting. And just like his childhood growing up and how things that he experienced in his childhood have like translated to themes in the movies.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
I think the first movie he directed was Lupin III: The Castle of Cagliostro, which is about like
know that
Arsène
I don't
Lupin,
know
which
that
is like a
one.
famous thief in history. That's a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, Fantastic Mr. Fox. How's that?
Yeah.
Did you rate it?
8.5 out of 10 for me.
8.5.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
What did you rate it?
I'm not really a rater. I struggle with this with books too because I feel like, it's going back to AJ Fikry, right? Like not a critically acclaimed movie, but it scratched the itch on a Friday night. I'm not one that I can like just give a flat rating. For me, like with books, it's like, well, but the character development or the prose, like it's hard for me to give a flat rating. So
It's truly so easy for me to give a flat rating.
You're like, what?
I agree with everything that Flannery said because there's some movies where I can look at it and say, well, yeah, that's an obvious like 1 out of 5, but I might still enjoy it.
Right.
But then there are some movies where it's like, that's not a 5 out of 5, but I enjoy it so much that I have to say that it's a 5 out of 5 for
right.
me.
Well, and it's like for me, Fantastic Mr. Fox, clearly a 5 out of 5 movie, right? Like I think objectively we can all say it's a critically well done movie, but again, it's not gonna be the one I pull out when I want to watch.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I think we're also getting something a little deeper, which is like the difference between a good salesperson and not.
What do you mean?
Because like if you can say to someone, this book was a 3 out of 5 for me, let me tell you why.
Are you saying I'm a good salesperson?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, it's like we just like a couple weeks ago or last month we did this book, Notes on an Execution, for our book club. And
That hurts.
I know.
So
I know.
many people. Oh my god.
But
What was the consensus amongst
well,
everybody?
the consensus was the story structure was flawed for many reasons, but her prose was outstanding. So it's like, how do you rate that, right?
I got a lot of feedback about the actual, like the content of the story was like,
Super heavy.
Well, it is really heavy.
Yeah.
I mean, nobody reads a book called Notes on an Execution. To
only
like,
you would pick that for a book club book.
I know, we picked it together.
Oh,
Seriously.
So all of that,
It-
everyone who was complaining, they had a hand in picking the book.
It was a democracy. They might not
Wow.
have.
I didn't give my book club the option.
Yeah. Yeah. My book club is a democracy.
Mine's not.
What does Sarah call my book club? Tears?
No, Kleenex tissues and complex issues.
Yeah.
That's pretty good. That's a great
Because
name.
that is, but you don't come in and be like, I sobbed. It's the best book I've ever read. I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't want to sob. I'm reading a book.
I know. But that's what I just.
She loves some deep-rooted issues.
I do, which is maybe why I turned Fantastic Mr. Fox into something deeper than it needed to be.
I love
But I
that
thought there
though.
were-
I know. I bet if
Yeah.
you dig deep enough, you can find in Wes Anderson
I
something
think-
about what the theme
yeah.
of the movie is
Yeah.
supposed to be.
Yeah.
I
I mean, it
appreciated
is
your deeper
greed.
analysis
Yeah.
because I didn't bring much of that to AJ Fikry.
But I mean,
other than
yeah.
saying he was.
I don't know. There was
I mean,
anyone else there except the one husband was a really bad person.
No, but I think okay, so one criticism we had was that Lucy Hale's character was kind of blah, and like all of a sudden she's like, I'm not marrying that guy, right? And you're like, well, what happened? But I, for me, the point of that was her life was going on over here, and we didn't need to know about it.
Yeah.
Because what we needed to know about was AJ and Maya,
Yeah, but I
and
think
it
she
didn't
also
matter.
needs a little backstory to make her a likable character because you watch movies for likable characters.
I think that's why that movie opened with her character traveling to the island because it added a little bit of connection
she
to
had
her from the
nada,
get-go,
nothing.
despite
Yeah, I don't
not
think it
really
was
being
that
in the
bad.
movie.
It's
Yeah.
like she got worse
Yeah, you're
over
like, who
time
are
because you
you?
start to hear her and then you're like, what are you talking? Like, she kind of sucks, you know? She's like, especially when it comes.
I'm 100% with Ali on this one. I was
especially when it comes to relationships, she's like,
no
oh, my marriage
plot.
ended because like we're different, and then she's like, I don't know if I really want to put in the time to
You're like,
make
in
this work.
what world does someone say we just ended things because we're different and doesn't like? And it's like, yeah.
Yeah.
Is there a deeper writing term for like that type of character, like a female character that doesn't like serve the plot other than to like be to push the
Like a secondary
male
character,
forward?
like a
Yeah.
what's the
Like a plot
correct?
device.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
What's that one?
But I
thing
feel
where
like
it's
she was a pretty big. I mean, they get married.
Yeah.
That's that's the thing. I think because like they're like the cover. I'm like, oh, it's like their story, and it's like we
Oh,
didn't
I fully
need
thought it was
her.
a love story
Yeah,
between the two of them. It's
same.
really
Yeah, I don't
not
think
at
it's
all.
not.
It's
I
not.
think
It's
that's
not about
why.
her at
I mean,
all.
for me,
It's
that's
the
why her
storied life of
character
AJ
wasn't.
Fikry.
Shame on you, PR and marketing team. Shame on you.
Well, I think that for me, that's why her character wasn't that important to me.
But
you know?
from the movie perspective, like I don't know how you feel about movie posters, but I feel like that is
It's so important.
that is how you were going to decide. Like when you still went to a movie theater all the time, you'd be sitting on that. You could change your mind about what you're going to see. You're like, oh my god, that looks so good. So the movie poster for this
Right.
one is the two of them.
Yeah.
And so I really,
should,
I thought
yeah.
it was a
I
love
can
story.
appreciate
Yeah.
I also had
Yeah.
a lot on the after going to this design conference this week. I had a lot of thoughts about the opening typography of because they're showing all
I
of the
don't
names
even
of the cast.
remember,
They
yeah.
speed run the credits of this movie.
Yeah.
I
I'm not
hate
sure
that.
why.
Yeah.
But then when they show the actual like logo of the title of the movie, it's in the style of everything else.
Yeah.
And it doesn't really quite stand out. And that was definitely on the poster. So I would say
For in
yeah.
It's
contrast,
kinda
Fantastic Mr.
like-
Fox is
Oh,
amazing.
it looks great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of like when I watched Shadowlands, which was about C.S. Lewis and his wife who dies of cancer.
I did not watch that.
And at the time, I was in a Deborah Winger phase because my favorite movie at the time was Terms of Endearment. It's still a 10 out of 10.
I mean, that is a fantastic
Yeah.
movie.
I've
Like-
not seen it.
You have to turn back for Terms of Endearment.
Your eyes will be swollen for days.
Oh, no.
After
Yeah,
you watch
it's,
it, like ugly cry. Like
no.
I've watched it 200 times.
Yeah.
I
Back,
watched it probably 10, not as
back
many as
in
200.
the day when I try and tell the kids this all the time, like when a movie would come on TV, you'd be like, "Oh, Terms of Endearment is on. We gotta sit and watch." Because like there was no streaming,
pause,
right?
like you had the TV Guide channel, and you were
Yeah.
like, ooh,
Yeah.
ooh,
Yeah, that's
ooh,
why I've
okay.
seen The Dark Knight like 300 million times.
Yeah, so like I would always watch it, and I loved Deborah Winger. Like I just thought she was, and like I loved Officer and a Gentleman.
I
you
don't know
ever-
what that is.
Have you watched The Family Stone?
I know what that is.
We're missing some great tearjerker, like some emotional, deep family.
Okay, wait, we're talking about Deborah Winger though.
I know, but
So-
I just thought we're on the same.
I don't watch a lot of movies that are like.
So
gonna make you
Officer and
cry.
a Gentleman is Richard Gere, a young Richard Gere,
Yeah.
and he plays a Navy officer, and Deborah Winger plays his love interest.
I've seen the poster for that.
Oh my god, it's so good.
It's good.
Anyway, I loved her because I thought she was like a great actress. So Shadowlands was coming out. You know, I'd read C.S. Lewis, and I was like, oh, this is gonna be a banger. And then I watched it, and I was like, all right, it's kind of like AJ Fikry. Like, I loved the book. Are you watching The Time?
No,
do I need to get closer?
No, I have no idea.
Okay.
No, we're good.
I loved the book. I loved the actresses, and I liked it because of all those things. But objectively, it's like AJ Fikry. I enjoyed myself. Objectively, not a great movie, but I would probably watch it again.
Yeah.
I put so much thought, and if I'm going to watch a movie, I put so much thought into what I'm going to watch.
Yeah, I mean it's your time, which is a
Well, that's
valuable
why I don't watch
resource.
a lot because I
Well, I know
read.
there's so many people who are like, "Oh, this looks good," and I'm like,
No, I can't.
"That looks good. That's how you picked that." Like I watch the trailer before I commit,
Oh yeah,
and then I'm like 2 hours in and I haven't started a movie yet. But
it's hard for me to find a movie to watch.
I'm a mood
So
person.
hard.
So like
Yeah.
it has to fit the
I'm
mood
one-
I'm in, like the vibe I'm feeling.
I default to horror movies if I can't find something to watch.
No.
Gosh.
I-
You just watch like a horror movie, just like
Yeah, I'll be like folding laundry
Casually.
on a Sunday afternoon. My husband's like, "I married a serial killer."
oh my gosh.
My personal content schedule more focused into like video games and what video game I'm trying to
Right.
play right
Yeah.
now. And if it's a movie, then it's usually like what really good movie that came out this year that I haven't seen yet. Like Banshees of Inisherin, haven't seen it. If I'm
Yeah.
gonna sit down and watch a movie by
Okay,
myself,
wait, I
it's
think
gonna
I
be
did
that.
watch that. Now that I'm thinking about it, it was awful.
Really?
Have you seen
It
In
got
Bruges?
great reviews.
I have seen In Bruges.
Did you like In Bruges?
I remember I mean, it was years ago, but I remember thinking I liked it.
You know,
Yeah, who was
I'm
in that?
trying to. I want to
Colin
avoid
Farrell
like,
and-
I don't want to sound sexist, but I haven't met a woman that enjoyed Banshees of Inisherin yet.
Which means I probably would.
It was the depressing Irish guy, and he kept
Yeah.
trying to be friends with. And every time the friend was finally like, "Every time you come and try and hang out with me, I'm going to cut my finger off." And he pretty soon cut off all his fingers.
Well, I haven't seen it, and I want to watch it, so don't tell
spoilers.
me.
Well, no, that's in the trailer. That's part
Yeah, I
of
was
the
like,
trailer.
Yeah, I
That's
guess.
right.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
watched it with my dad. Also, I have a love of depressing Irish content. So I was like, I'm all in.
I can't.
Oh, I love depressing
We
Irish
watched. I
content.
think In Bruges was my least favorite assignment he's ever given me. I hated it that much.
Listen,
All right,
anime. But you like anime.
report
Yeah, I
back
don't mind
on Banshees.
Yeah, no, I've been meaning to watch it.
Although I
mean,
will
like,
say Colin Farrell did an outstanding job.
I
yeah,
love
like
He was great.
my mom
I like him in
and
Horrible
my
Bosses.
stepdad watched it.
I love that
Stepdad loved it. Mom hated it. And yeah, and this guy and this woman at the design meetup I go to, he sings the praises of that movie, and she thought it was the worst thing she's ever seen. So
I mean,
It's just like
yeah.
they just bicker. Like they don't do anything.
Yeah,
or like, it's
they're
just-
so-
well, so
yeah,
the guy that
And I'm all about like an anticlimactic plot
Yeah.
where there's really good character development, but in this one I was just like,
Yeah.
So that was written and directed by Martin McDonagh, who is known for his stage plays, but he also does movies. And so it's the writing and the metaphor and the layers. That's what's supposed to like get people going with his work.
yeah, it
but-
didn't get me going.
Didn't
Yeah.
translate to the.
Yeah.
well, but this
It got
wasn't
me
based
not
on a
going.
stage play. You know, it's just a movie.
He does the movie. I'm wondering if he was trying to apply that same.
Yeah.
It doesn't translate as well on
But-
film as it does.
But I appreciated certain aspects of In Bruges in that, like,
Okay.
it did feel like that storytelling of layers of, you know, like the deeper you dive into it, the more rewarding
Yeah.
it gets. Like everything's very intentional. But in the case of In Bruges, it's like a lot of
stomach's like
just
growling.
like super problematic
not eat
dialogue
enough?
that doesn't really hold
Probably
up.
not. I mean, nothing but candy.
Anyway, should we close
Wrap
things
it up.
out?
How do we
Yeah.
wrap it up?
Well, we have to do
Well,
assignments
we have
for
to do
next week.
assignments for next week, but overall, like, before we do that, it was a pleasure having you both. This was a ton of fun.
I hope
3
we were-
hours later.
How much do you
I was like,
edit
we're
this
trimming
down?
this one
I-
down.
We never like really.
I
cut out
probably
that
won't
much.
really edit it down too much.
Well, there's a whole beginning part that we'll cut
yeah.
out because we were not starting yet.
So
but
because that says 3,700, that means we're at about a little over 2 hours.
Oh,
that's not bad.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So
Alright.
I mean, it was a pleasure having both of you.
Yeah,
If-
Thanks for
This was
having
so
us.
much
This
fun.
was
yeah,
fun.
even
When
if
can we
you
come
were
back?
just like
Whenever you want.
recording it was great, but just to be able to sit down and
Man, I
have this
love
kind of
talking about this
conversation was
stuff.
awesome.
Yeah.
I was thinking about it while I was watching one of you talk, and I was like, the hours just passed, and I could sit here for like 5 hours.
I feel like this space is a little bit of a time suck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like in a good way, because like we have a couple other things we do down here where we're like, oh my god, it's been 5 hours. What are we doing?
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
even like this Saturday, I came in because I was like, I just need to not get a break from my family, but I just need to like, I was having kind of a mopey day, and I was like, I just need to rejuvenate.
Yeah.
And so I came over here.
Yeah.
Most people
Anyway.
don't go to work to rejuvenate. We're the opposite of that.
I go for a walk.
Yeah.
I do
But it's
do
such a
that.
fun space. Like, I don't know. It
It
never
gets
feels
it- I
like, maybe
think-
for me, it just like never feels like work being here. It's
I
like this is
feel-
my
I
second
feel
home.
like
That's the
There's,
goal. That was our objective.
What I love about it is like, I know for lack of like a better, kind of a cliche phrase, but it gets the creative juices flowing like the minute we walk in. Like even talking about all this stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
like,
and that's like what
ideas
this space.
and-
This is what this space is for.
Yeah. I mean, when we were
Yeah.
talking about like website related stuff, I was thinking like, oh yeah, if I came in and sat down to work on that, I would be like zeroed in.
Yeah.
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 I mean, people come out all the time and they're just like, can I just
Yeah.
hang out? And we're like, yeah, sure.
Or they come in
Yeah.
and they're like, I have an
That's what you
idea.
guys should start a co-working space.
It's been brought up before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know how it's not that it would bother us. We would drive other people insane.
Nobody would want to co-work.
No one
here.
would want to come work here.
It's a small space, and you also need it to.
Or even
run
if it's
your
not this
business.
space, like another space.
Yeah,
Like,
agreed.
yeah, there's a couple people in the area who are like
Have looked into
have
it.
looked into
Yeah.
it and just don't think there's a
Really?
the people are too like set up at home now
Yeah.
to like pay
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
Well,
now if we get it sponsored or funded and it was just like a free space for like anyone, that would be really cool. But
I toured a couple of co-working spaces this past week in downtown Charlottesville, and
what do you think of the Code building?
loved it.
Really, I've heard
Yeah.
mixed bag.
I don't want
Do we
to
need
go
to go
too
off
on
the
the record.
record?
I don't
Yeah.
want to go too on the record on it, but I mean, you do have to pay a little bit for
Yeah,
what
well,
you're
it's the
getting.
same as all the co I mean,
Yeah.
Common House, same thing. I
Yeah.
was a
I was
Common
looking
House
at the
member.
website.
But I
It looks
thought
so
the
nice.
amenities were great, and the architecture is incredible. Yeah,
Do we need to
I
wrap
would
this
do
up
great
and we'll
work in
talk
there.
this?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah,
Let's
sorry,
talk.
yeah.
We can talk more. Let's wrap this up. I mean, Code building, loved it. Thank you for the tour, if you're listening. Anyway, yeah, let's
Yeah.
wrap things up.
All right. What are you guys
Assignments.
gonna assign each other?
Do you want to go first? Do you want me to go first?
Yeah, so I am still not allowed to assign something depressing.
I didn't say that. I didn't say anything.
That seems fair.
So I'm assigning a So Bad It's Good movie called The Miami Connection,
Okay, that sounds
made in the
familiar.
80s.
Ooh, who's in it?
Nobody you know.
That was
That's
the
part of the
point.
point. Yeah.
Good luck finding that one, IMDb.
It's I don't think it's
I wonder
streaming
if
anywhere.
Garland
We
has
can
seen
only
it.
watch it because I have it on Blu-ray.
Nice. Nice.
Wow.
And
Do
I
you have a Blu-ray machine?
Blu-ray machine.
I have a PlayStation 5.
Did you need? Remember, you would go in and it was like
I've never needed a Blu-ray player because I've always owned a PlayStation.
that was a thing.
Like a Blu-ray player?
Yeah.
Why'd you
I
say
thought,
machine?
I thought everyone used their
Their PlayStation.
PlayStation for
Oh, no,
it.
Yeah.
back in the day, you had to have,
Have a Blu-ray
That was
player.
like a It was kind of like when you go to Blockbuster and there were people who would get beta.
Beta, like film?
Yeah, like you were either VHS or beta.
Oh my gosh.
And beta was like it was just a different
Setup.
cassette.
Yeah, oh, that's right, that's right.
Yeah. And I was always like, who has beta? Like, people had beta, and then Blu-ray came out, and you would go to the mall, and you'd see the Blu-ray machines at Sam Goody or whatever, and
Right.
you're like, oh, wow, that's a Blu-ray.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
still have just a basic DVD player that will not play Blu-ray. All my DVDs are just DVD.
We have
Well,
a DVD
we also
player
own a
that's broken. There's a
PlayStation that
DVD
can play
stuck
all
in
the
it.
DVDs.
Oh no.
Not sure what it is, but it's stuck in there.
Dang. Well, yeah.
All right, Miami Connection. That's going to be a really fun watch.
Yeah.
Is it, though? Sorry.
I'm going
Tune
to
in.
enjoy it.
Yeah.
The reason I own the Blu-ray is because it was the only way to legally obtain the soundtrack. So, and the soundtrack is like there's a whole story behind.
You
the
didn't
soundtrack.
download it from Napster?
No,
LimeWire, if you will.
LimeWire?
I was there. I was
Incidentally,
there
the
in that
Napster
time.
guys who invented it went to my high school. Chantilly.
Wow. Interesting.
All right, let's do your assignment. Let's
So,
wrap
yeah.
this up.
The reason why, the reason why I told you, well, I recommended picking something lighthearted because I'm giving you a downer. So I'm gonna give you Malcolm and Marie, which is very much a downer.
What is it?
It's a recent movie, came out during the pandemic with John David Washington and Zendaya.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, and it is straight up a downer.
Is that
Straight up a downer.
Straight up a downer.
wait,
I'm stoked. I'm ready.
I love him. He's Ricky Jarrett from Ballers.
I've
right?
never seen that.
Let me see. Yeah, I think
Ballers,
you're right.
But he's
HBO
what's his
movie?
name? He's Denzel Washington's son.
Oh yeah, no, Ballers, the show
Did you
with The
watch
Rock.
Ballers?
Yes.
Oh, with the Rock. I've
I'm
seen that
sorry,
movie.
but this will
Yeah.
get me down a path of The Rock is an underrated actor. He can do.
The Rock is Flannery Pass.
I love him. He can,
Dwayne The Rock Johnson
Yeah.
is Flannery's Hall Pass.
I
I said it. You heard it here first. It's
Well-
memorialized now.
I know.
I mean, fair.
Have you watched
I met
Ballers?
him. Did you know that? I have a picture. I'll show you.
Where'd
All
you
right,
meet
let's
him?
let's wrap this up.
Yeah.
Let's keep the conversation
I'll
going.
talk
but
about it
we'll wrap
after.
up. Thank you for joining us on this
Yeah.
episode of the Content Swap Podcast. It's been a pleasure. Let's do it again.
I hope so.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's fun.
And so, okay, next week it'll be
Malcolm and Marie.
Malcolm and Marie
I've never seen
and
the preview for that.
Miami
Yeah.
Connection.
Yeah.
See you then. Bye.
Bye.
Just wave. Bye.
If you made it this far, we appreciate you.
We're like tank your listenership.
Yeah, it's gonna be your least rated episode.
The reviews are gonna be awful. It'll be like, don't ever have guests again.
5%.